Your thoughts start looping at the worst possible moments. You're brushing your teeth, and the quiet hum of the bathroom fan becomes a stage where your mind performs the same scene again and again. You replay the message you sent. You rehearse the meeting that hasn't happened. Your chest tightens like a fist around your heart, shoulders creeping up as if your body can hide inside itself. The room is ordinary, tile, mirror, soft light, but inside your skull it's a wind tunnel. Your breath goes shallow. Your stomach picks the exact second to feel hollow and buzzy. You try to argue with the loop. It gets louder. Sound familiar? Here's the promise. By the end of this journey, you will learn to stop the spiral in under a minute, aim your attention like a beam, and choose the next small wise action, even when your heart is racing and your mind insists you can't. Overthinking is not a moral failing. It's a survival system overdoing its job. Your amygdala scans for threat and rings an alarm, then your reticular activating system, your brain's filter, magnifies whatever matches the fear. If you once stumbled in a meeting, your RAS finds every microfrown, every pause, and tags it as proof you're in danger. Blood gets pulled from your planning centers to fund your fight-flight response, so rational options feel far away. This is why you can know better and still spiral. But a system that learned can relearn. Neuroplasticity is your leverage, and we'll use it not with lectures, but with drills your body understands. The first drill is the 60-second spiral interrupt, or SSI. It has 3 moves: call the weather, reset the breath, pick a 1-inch action. Calling the weather means you name the current in a climate exactly as if you were reporting rain. Anxious gusts, tight chest, mind looping on worst case. No story, no blame, just the forecast. Then you reset the breath with a 4-4-6 rhythm. Inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 6. That longer exhale tilts your nervous system toward calm by tugging the brake on your heart rate. Finally, the 1-inch action, something so small it is unquestionably doable in the next minute. Send the paragraph, fill the water bottle, stand up and stretch, open the doc, and write 1 sentence. The spiral survives on infinity. You starve it with 1 inch. Tonight, as you lie in bed with the blue glow of your phone painting your ceiling, try the SSI. The sheets are warm, but the air near your face is cool. Notice that contrast. Your jaw releases just a little as you say silently, whether anxious, fast heartbeat replaying Sarah's tone. Inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 6. Again and again. Your diaphragm moves like a tide under your ribs. On the 3rd cycle, your shoulders drop a centimeter. Pick the 1-inch action, plug the phone into the charger across the room, and turn on airplane mode. You don't fix the whole week. You just remove the gasoline from tonight's spark. Now the bed holds you a bit heavier. The spiral is still whispering, but you've stopped feeding it paragraphs. To make this real in your day, we add a second framework, the 3-channel check. Your mind storm runs on 3 channels: body, story, and signal. Body is the raw sensation, pressure behind the eyes, a flutter in the gut, heat in the cheeks. Story is the narrative. I always mess this up. They're judging me. This will ruin everything. Signal is the useful message inside the noise. Maybe your values are tugging your sleeve. Maybe a boundary is frayed. When you're spiraling, you tend to fuse all 3 and believe the story as if it were the weather itself. The 3-channel check trains you to separate them. You say, body, tight throat, buzzing hands. Story, they think I'm incompetent. Signal, I care about doing this well and I need 5 minutes to prepare. Notice how the signal is actionable. The story is a movie. The body is data. Maya learned this in a fluorescent conference room where the clock ticked loud enough to be rude. Her team's slide deck had a missing chart. She felt the heat rise in her face as she pictured the client's eyebrows shooting up. The story pounced. You'll lose the account. They'll never trust you. You're the weak link. She could feel her breath skitter. There was a microscopic tremor in her right hand. She touched her pen to the table to anchor it. Weather, anxious squall, 446 breath, quiet and private. Then the 3-channel check. Body, heat in cheeks, fast breath, slight tremor. Story, catastrophe. Signal, we need to admit the missing chart, propose a simple way to decide without it, and send the update by 4 p.m. Small action. Write 2 honest sentences on a sticky note. When her turn came, she didn't deliver a TED talk. She said, "There's one chart we don't have yet. Rather than guess, we can choose between A or B today, and I'll send the numbers by 4. The client's shoulders softened. The account stayed. Walking down the hallway afterward, she wasn't floating, she was steady. She realized that clarity didn't arrive before action. It arrived because of the small, honest action. As you listen now, feel the weight of your own body where you are, hips in the chair, feet on the floor, the coolness of air brushing your nostrils on the inhale. The spiral tells you that if you don't analyze every possible angle, disaster will find the one you missed. But the brain does not reward infinite analysis. It rewards closure. Each small completion releases a drip of dopamine, teaching your RAS to filter for handles instead of hazards. When you practice SSI and the 3-channel check, you are quietly updating your brain's search terms. Instead of proof I'm failing, you ask, the smallest lever I can pull. Over days, your nervous system learns that you can feel intensity and still act wisely. This is not positive thinking, it is practical physiology. There's a moment each morning when your first thought sets the tone of the day. Maybe it's while pouring coffee, the smell nutty and warm, the steam fogging your glasses. You remember an email you've been avoiding. The old spiral says, later, and your gut twists. Try this instead, you whisper, weather, mild dread, shoulders tight. Breathe 446 twice while the kettle rattles. Then the 1-inch action. Copy-paste the email's subject line into a draft and write a single sentence. Quick question about timeline. Would Thursday 3 p.m. work? Hit save, not send. That's enough. You just turned a cliff into a step. You'll send it after breakfast. Your system registers success. On the science front, here's why this works. The amygdala can flood the system in milliseconds, but it is also exquisitely responsive to signals of safety. Long exhalations nudge your vagus nerve, which settles heart rate variability into a more resilient pattern. Naming the weather engages language networks that lightly re-engage your prefrontal cortex, the part of you that plans and reframes. The 1-inch action recruits your basal ganglia to encode a habit loop with a quick win. None of this demands that you feel calm first. You do the moves, and the feelings follow like weather clearing after a front passes through. The brain is not a courtroom, it's an ecosystem. You're not arguing a case to a judge, you're tending conditions for a different crop to grow. You might wonder, but what if the story is true? What if I really did mess it up? That's honest. Spirals often mix facts with forecasts. The 3-channel check helps you separate accountability from self-attack. If you drop the ball, the signal might be repair the trust. What's the 1-inch action there? Draft an apology that leads with ownership and one specific next step. Body, breath steadying, story, I'm irredeemable. Signal, I value reliability, I'll repair. Action, I'm sorry I missed the deadline. I've blocked 2:04 p.m. to complete it and will send by 4:10. If you need a different plan, I'm here to discuss. You just transformed shame into responsibility. Your chest may still feel heavy, but you're walking. Let's practice together now. Place one palm on your chest and one on your abdomen. Feel which hand moves more. Invite the lower hand to rise first. Inhale 4, hold 4, Exhale 6, letting the exhale soften your jaw. Again and again. Whisper the weather out loud if you can. Notice the room's temperature on your forearms. The mind will try to sprint back into the maze. You kindly escort it back to the anchor of breath and contact points. Then ask, what is the next 1-inch action that would make the rest easier? Not the smartest plan, not the perfect sequence, just the next inch. You might stand and drink water. You might set a 60-second timer and clean the top right corner of your desk. You might open the calendar and drag a task to a real hour. Each inch is a brick. Bricks become a road. There's a street-level truth worth stating. You won't stop thinking. You don't want to. Your thinking is a gift. The goal is not silence, it's leadership. You lead your mind the way a good trail guide leads a group. Eyes on the next marker, calm voice, clear pace. When panic surges, you remind yourself, you are the awareness, not the emotion. The breath keeps you anchored. The labels keep you honest. The inch keeps you moving. If you find yourself back in the maze at lunchtime, that's not failure, that's the training environment. Name the weather, breathe, inch, repeat. This is how you become a person who doesn't spiral even when your mind offers 100 reasons to. On a rainy Saturday, you'll notice the shift. The scent of dust lifted from warm pavement drifts through an open window. A friend texts a vague, "We need to talk," and for an instant your stomach dips. Then your hands loosen. Weather, sudden worry, cool skin, 446 twice, 3-channel check, body, slight clench in the gut. Story, doom, signal, ask for a time that works and keep reading your book. 1-inch action, sounds good, what time works for you, send. You return to the page, the paper rough under your fingertips. The mind tries to bargain, but what if it's bad? And you nod at it like you would a toddler demanding a second cookie. Noted. Back to the next sentence. When the talk happens at 4, it's about a change in plans for a trip. Your nervous system learns something quietly profound. You can survive uncertainty without building a tower of theories. The world feels less like an exam you might fail and more like whether you can dress for. This is not about becoming fearless. It's about becoming skillful. Fear still visits, you just don't hand it the keys. Over 12 parts, we'll widen your toolkit, reframes that land in the body, routines that make calm your default, boundaries that protect your focus, questions that turn rumination into design. For now, hold on to the 2 frameworks you learned today. The 60-second spiral interrupt, weather, breath, inch, and the 3-channel check, body, story, signal. Tape them inside your mental locker. Use them on small worries to build the muscle so they're available during storms. You don't need to believe in them, you need to do them. As we close this chapter, take one more breath with me. Inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 6. Feel the chair take more of your weight. Notice one sound in the room you hadn't noticed before. Then pick your 1-inch action the moment this audio ends, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, right after. Put a reminder on your lock screen, weather, breath, inch. You will spiral again, everyone does, but now you have a lever, and because you have a lever, you have a choice. The weather may shift, but you. You are the sky it moves through. You don't stop a spiral by force, you outskill it. The second lever is timing. Most spirals are short weather systems that feel endless because you keep walking back into the rain cloud with a forecast app that only shows storms. Neuroscience gives you a humane boundary. Emotions, when unfueled, crest and recede in about 90 seconds. That's the 90-second weather rule. Your amygdala fires, your body releases a chemical cascade, and if you don't feed it with more catastrophic commentary, the wave breaks. The problem isn't the first wave, it's the commentary. So in part 2, you're going to learn 2 frameworks that turn those 90 seconds into a runway instead of a trap. The first is the 90-second weather rule itself, practiced deliberately. The second is the Window-Widen Protocol, a way to expand your choices right when your field of vision is shrinking to a pinhole. You'll start with the clock and the body. Place your phone face down. Feel the cool glass at your fingertips for a moment, then slide it away so your attention doesn't keep reaching for it. Set a discrete 90-second timer or count a breath rhythm that totals roughly that length. Inhale for 4, hold for 2, exhale for 6. That's about 12 seconds per cycle. 8 cycles gets you close to 96 seconds, which is perfect because a little extra time gives your prefrontal cortex room to rejoin the conversation. While you breathe, you narrate like a calm meteorologist. Weather rising, heat in the chest, mind broadcasting worst case, let's watch. No fixing, no debating. When the timer ends or your 8th exhale lands, you ask one question: what is my smallest wide move? Wide means it opens options. It doesn't paint you into a tighter corner. You'll be surprised how often the answer is something humble: drink water, step outside, write 3 bullet lines of facts. That tiny widening is a hinge. Doors swing on hinges. A story to ground this. Aidan stood in his kitchen on a Sunday night lit by the blue-gray of the fridge. The smell of leftovers, garlic and lemon still clung to the air. His boss had texted, "Can we touch base early?" which to a mind trained by years of conditional praise sounded like a summons. His stomach tightened, his scalp prickled behind the ears. He could feel the first urge to replay that awkward comment he'd made on Thursday. 90 seconds, he thought, remembering our rule. He set the timer, placed both hands on the countertop's cool stone, and began the breath count. 4 in, 2 hold, 6 out. On the second exhale, he noticed his shoulders had been up near his ears and let them drop. On the 4th, he realized his toes were clenched in his socks and splayed them like a fan. His thoughts kept trying to sprint into explanation. He let them pass like pedestrians and returned to counting air. When the timer chimed, the wave wasn't gone, but it was no longer steering the car. Smallest wide move, he asked. He wrote 3 lines on a sticky note: project status, on track, risks, vendor delay, ask, clarify priorities for Q4. He put the note on his laptop and went to bed. Monday morning, his boss wanted to float a positive shift. The text had meant exactly what it said. Aidan felt a quiet recalibration. He hadn't prevented a disaster. He'd prevented an unnecessary rehearsal of one. As you sit where you are, check the weight of your body again. Notice 1 square inch of skin where the air feels cooler, maybe the inside of your wrist or the tip of your nose. There is a measurable shift when you attend to sensation without a sentence attached. This is a trick of the reticular activating system that now works in your favor. When you label weather and watch breath, you are feeding your RAS a new category: signals of safety and control. With practice, your filter learns to bring you evidence of solvable pieces. That's not magic, it's mechanics. Now the second framework, the Window-Widen Protocol. Spirals narrow your mental window until the only options you see are bad and worse. The protocol has 4 quiet moves: pause, name, widen options, select the smallest wise action. You've seen hints of this, but here you'll deliberate it as a track you can run on when your mind is loud. The pause is a single inhale-exhale with awareness of your feet. The naming is your 3-channel check said in a sentence. The widen step is where the science meets imagination. You intentionally generate 3 plausible paths, not necessarily perfect, just different in texture: 1 conservative, 1 courageous, 1 curious. Then you choose the smallest wise action that keeps the day moving. On a bus ride home, Hannah practiced this protocol without fanfare. The seat's plastic was warm from the last passenger. A child 2 rows back crinkled a snack wrapper in a rhythm that would have irritated saints. Hannah's phone showed a comment from a client, "Not what we expected." She felt the flush rise under her collarbone and the jaw clench, the body primed to sprint into apology or defense. Pause, she thought, and felt her feet inside her shoes. Name, body, heat, and clench. Story, I ruined it. Signal, clarify expectations and offer one revision path. Widen, option conservative, send a neutral note asking for one precise example. Option courageous, own a mismatch and suggest a zoom to reset goals. Option curious, ask what outcome would thrill them and propose a small experiment. Smallest wise action, she decided, was to draft the neutral note now and schedule a 5-minute call tomorrow. She typed with thumbs that felt less wooden than a minute ago. Thanks for the note. Could you share one specific example of where it diverged? I'll incorporate the revision today and propose 2 options. She sent it and watched the city slide by in rectangles of light. The wrapper crinkled again. She almost smiled. The day hadn't turned, she had. If you're thinking this all sounds almost too simple, that skepticism is welcome. It's the residue of a brain that has been trained to equate complexity with competence. But simple is not simplistic. Simple is executable in the moment your blood chemistry is stacked against you. The Window-Widen Protocol works because it sneaks you back into choice. With choice re-established, the amygdala calms, and your prefrontal cortex can compute nuance again. Then, if you want complexity, you can invite it from a stable floor. Let's rehearse a micro-practice now so it's available when you need it. Imagine a recent moment when you felt a micro-spiral begin, not a life event, something like a delayed reply or a weird glance. Close your eyes if you like. Hear the ambient sounds where you are, the hum of a fan, distant traffic, someone's footsteps overhead. Pause and find your feet. Name your 3-channel sentence from that memory. Breathe once with a 4 in, 6 out. Now widen and generate the 3 options in whisper thought. Conservative, courageous, curious. Don't judge them, just put them on the mental table. Then choose the smallest wise motion your body could perform in the next minute related to one option. Let the body move a fraction, even if it's just setting a calendar reminder or opening a draft. Feel the texture of momentum. It's different than the thrill of ruminating, quieter and steadier, like the faint vibration of a refrigerator in the evening. There is one more tool to lace through both frameworks, the thought labeling loop. Overthinkers often try to stop thoughts, which is like trying to stop wind with a net. You only end up tangled. Labeling lets wind blow while you hold a sturdy post. The loop is short. When you notice a sticky thought, they're annoyed. I blew it. This will explode. You prepend a phrase. I'm having the thought that. Then you add one more layer. I notice I'm having the thought that. It sounds silly, but in fMRI studies, distancing language reduces activity in threat circuits and increases regulation networks. In lived life, it buys you an inch of freedom. You can pair it with the 90-second rule or with the window protocol. I notice I'm having the thought that my manager is disappointed. Breath. What is my smallest wide move? A question, not a verdict. Is there anything you'd like me to adjust before Wednesday? Your identity isn't glued to the thought and you are the awareness, not the emotion, not even the idea. A personal scene to make this human. Years ago, in a quiet apartment where the only art on the wall was a cheap poster of mountains, I forgot a friend's birthday. My phone lit up with a short, cold message. Heat flooded my face. My chest felt both hollow and packed with heavy wool. The first thought was brutal and familiar. I'm a bad friend. I sat down on the floor, the carpet rough on my palms. 90 seconds, I told myself. Breath in 4, out 6 and label. I notice I'm having the thought that I'm a bad friend. the wave crested. Window-Widen. Conservative, send a late apology and ask how to make it right. Courageous, call directly, own it fully. Curious, ask what would feel meaningful now, offer a small celebration this week. Smallest wise action, text now to ask for a call, then draft the apology so words were ready when my throat went tight. When we spoke, I led with ownership and one concrete plan. The friendship didn't end, it deepened. The story in my head would have had me hide, the protocol had me repair. Right now, touch your jaw lightly and notice if you're clenching. Let the tongue rest on the floor of your mouth. Feel your back against the chair. Smell whatever the air carries, even if it's neutral. Bring the thought labeling loop into the room and try it on a current worry. Say, I notice I'm having the thought that, and finish the sentence. Then add, whether, and finish that too. If you can, glance to the left and name 3 blue objects or 3 rectangles. This grounds your visual system in the present. Then ask, what is my smallest wide move? There is a kind of self-respect in doing this. It says, I will not abandon myself to the worst-case movie. I will stay with me and pick a door that opens. A quick science bridge, short and useful. The negativity bias primes you to remember stings and miss soft landings. It was adaptive when missing a rustle in grass meant you became lunch. In modern life, it distorts your inner census. The thought labeling loop and Window-Widen act like audit teams. Labeling marks speculation as speculation, reducing how much your body believes its evidence. Widening generates multiple plausible maps, which calms your anterior cingulate, the brain's conflict monitor, because you are no longer insisting there is only one correct path that you must find or else. The 90-second container gives your stress chemistry time to metabolize. None of this requires a personality transplant. It requires reps. Build those reps in micro moments. In line at a store when the person ahead of you argues about a receipt, your patience starts to fray and your mind narrates a saga about how this always happens to you. 90 seconds. Breath. Weather, slight irritation, feet tired. Label, I notice I'm having the thought that people are inconsiderate. Widen, conservative, wait and scroll. Courageous, practice being device-free. Curious, count 5 shades of color in your environment. Smallest wise action, rest your shoulders and count colors. You leave with coffee and a nervous system that remembers you kept yourself company. There will be days when none of this feels elegant. You'll forget the frameworks until halfway through a spiral. That's fine. Frameworks are not grades, they're handrails. You grab them when you remember. You build identity as someone who reaches for handrails sooner each week. That identity shift matters because it changes your questions. You stop asking, why am I like this? And start asking, what does this moment invite me to practice? One question deepens shame, the other deepens skill. Before we close, let's install a ritual that will keep part 2 alive tomorrow. Choose a location anchor, a doorway you pass often, the refrigerator handle, the car's seatbelt. Every time your hand touches that anchor, you'll do 1 breath of 4 in, 6 out, and ask the window question. That's it. You're not turning life into a boot camp. You're wiring safety and choice into the background. Your basal ganglia love cues, give them 1. By Friday, you'll have created a circuit so familiar that when a spiral begins, your body knows what to do before your mind writes the script. You may still wonder, what about truly high-stakes moments? The same tools scale. The breath gets quieter, the labeling gets even more surgical. The widening options become time-bound. Conservative, I ask for a 5-minute pause. Courageous, I name the elephant in the room with care. Curious, I pose a question that turns conflict into a joint problem. You won't always choose perfectly. You don't need to. You need to avoid the worst choice. giving the steering wheel to panic. And that now is a choice you can make. As you take your next breath, feel the air cool on the back of your throat. Hear one small sound, maybe the click of a heater, the whisper of traffic. Sense the way your clothes touch your skin. You are not an algorithm that must compute every possible outcome before you move. You are a human, capable of noticing, naming, and widening. You are the awareness, not the emotion. The spiral may knock, but you don't have to invite it in for tea. You can open a window instead. Clarity doesn't arrive because you deserve it. It arrives because you create conditions where it can find you. Overthinking thrives in fog, blurred priorities, mixed signals, vague requests, fuzzy timelines. So in this chapter, you'll become a maker of clear air. Two frameworks will do the heavy lifting. The first is cognitive triage, a calm way to sort mental noise into 3 lanes so your prefrontal cortex doesn't drown. The second is the fact-fiction filter, a quick pass that separates what's knowable now from the stories your fear is writing in permanent marker. You'll pair both with a micro-practice called the 2-minute map, so you can turn clarity into motion before your chemistry talks you out of it. Start with the feeling of fog. Your eyes skim an email twice and still don't catch the point. Your shoulders inch upward like they've developed their own agenda. The room is ordinary light and reliable furniture, but your head is a crowded subway car at rush hour. Pause. Feel the chair resist your weight, the fabric brushing your forearms, the slight coolness of air as it touches the rim of your nostrils on the inhale. You are not trying to think harder. You're switching from panic's broadcast to a local channel you can control. 1 breath in for 4, out for 6. Now, cognitive triage. Cognitive triage has 3 lanes. Now, next, not yet. Now means must move in the next 15 minutes or reality degrades. Next means meaningful within the day, improves reality if progressed. Not yet means important but unavailable until a dependency is met or a later window opens. Your spiral lumps everything into now. Triage teaches your brain that urgency is not a personality trait. You speak the lanes out loud if you can. Now confirm the meeting link and send the updated agenda. Next, outline 3 talking points for the proposal. Not yet, redesign the entire workflow. Needs input from Sam. This is not a to-do list. It's a nervous system intervention. It tells your amygdala that the herd is not stampeding. It's being sorted into pens. Sorting restores agency. Agency calms threat response. Calmer chemistry unlocks smarter choices. A scene to make this tactile. Leela sat at her kitchen table, laptop open, an island of warm wood in morning light. The kettle clicked and hissed in the background. A calendar alert chimed, deck due today. Her stomach dipped, her throat tightened. The spiral tried to replay a dozen critiques from last quarter. She pressed her feet into the floor and whispered, weather, pressure in chest, warm cheeks. 4 in, 6 out. Then the triage. Now email Ken the updated link. No one can start without it. Next, draft the problem statement slide. Everything else hangs off that. Not yet, design flourishes, due after feedback. She sent the link in 30 seconds, typed 3 plain sentences into a box labeled problem, and felt her shoulders drop a centimeter. 10 minutes later, momentum replaced dread. The deck still needed care, but the fog had thinned enough to find the next stone in the river. If triage is the map table, the fact-fiction filter is the magnifying lamp. Overthinking laces facts with forecasts until you can't tell which is which. The filter has 2 steps. Step 1, write or say a single sentence starting with facts I can verify now and list only what a camera or transcript would capture. Step 2, write or say stories I'm telling and list the interpretations and predictions. You are not outlawing stories. You are labeling them so your body stops treating them as immediate fires. Labeling dampens the amygdala's alarm and re-engages your dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, the planning and reasoning network you need to choose wisely. One pass through the filter turns a doomed narrative into a solvable outline. Practice with your hands so your body learns. Pick a situation that's looping. Feel the texture of your breath in your throat, the temperature on your cheeks. Now say, facts I can verify now, and list 3 current facts. Then, stories I'm telling, and list 3 plausible stories. You'll notice your chest lightens just enough to make space for a choice. That space is the doorway. Here's Jonah on a grey Thursday, the office buzzing like a hive, fluorescent lights washing the room. His manager walked past without eye contact. The old script landed hard, I'm in trouble. He could feel the micro-sweat in his palms, the buzz in the stomach, spiral bait, 90 seconds, breath slow and even, cognitive triage, now finish the summary due at 2. Next, draft 2 questions for the 4 o'clock sync. Not yet, career post-mortem. Then the filter. Facts, manager walked past, no eye contact, no email about performance, meeting at 4 still on. Stories, he's disappointed. I blew the last deliverable, they're planning to replace me. He wrote both headings on a sticky note and left it anchored to his keyboard. The act of writing didn't change the external reality, but it changed his internal permissions. He had permission to act on facts and keep stories provisional. At 4, the manager apologized for being distracted by a personal call. Jonah's nervous system logged a crucial lesson. The story in your head is not obligated to be true. Right now, feel the way your clothes rest against your shoulders. Hear one faint sound you were ignoring, the hum of the vent, the distant conversation, a leaf scratching a window. Your reticular activating system is a bouncer. It lets in what seems relevant. When you name facts and stories, you retrain the bouncer to stop admitting pure speculation without ID. Over days, you'll catch your attention returning sooner to what you can move. To make clarity operational, install the 2-minute map. It's a micro-practice you run right after triage and filtering before your adrenaline argues you back into delay. The rule is as humble as it is powerful. Spend exactly 2 minutes turning now into visible progress and next into a named first action. 2 minutes is enough to open the doc and title it, enough to write a subject line and 1 sentence, enough to gather a link, enough to put the meeting on the calendar with a realistic time. The psychology is clean. Completion releases dopamine, which teaches your brain that forward motion is rewarding. Small visible progress reduces uncertainty, which quiets the limbic system, and acting on the tiniest piece establishes identity. I am the person who moves the needle, even when fog is thick. A memory from my own training. Years ago, I'd sit at a desk that had slowly become a museum of noble intentions. Sticky notes like bright flags, a tidy stack of unread articles, a plant on the brink. I'd open a draft labeled Important Proposal, and my vision would narrow to a tunnel where only perfect sentences counted as safety. That day, I tried the 2-minute map. Timer on. Write the ugly first line of the problem statement. It took 20 seconds to write. We solve X for people who struggle with Y because Z, it was papier-mâché at best. But the click of the keys and the existence of words on the page softened something beneath my sternum. 2 minutes ended. I wanted to keep going. I let myself write 1 more minute, then stood and drank water as if I'd just returned from a tiny expedition. The plant got a drink too. Even the room felt less tight, as if new air had slipped in through a cracked window. Let's stitch the frameworks in a live drill. Bring to mind a real task you're avoiding. Notice your breathing without changing it. Notice the weight of your feet. Whisper the weather, no story, just meteorology. Now run cognitive triage, say now, next, not yet, and put a concrete item in each. Run the fact-fiction filter, say 3 facts, 3 stories. Finally, set a 2-minute timer and take visible action on the now item. As you move, keep a drop of attention on sensation, the click of the keyboard, the scratch of a pen, the warmth where your palm meets the desk. When the timer ends, stop even if you want to continue. Stopping on time teaches your brain you are choosing, not being dragged. Choice is the muscle we are building. Science bridge, short and useful. When you sort tasks into time-based lanes, you reduce load on your working memory, which is famously limited. That frees capacity for actual problem solving. Labeling facts versus stories engages language and perspective networks that reduce limbic dominance. Time-boxed micro-actions harness the brain's habit loops in the basal ganglia, making the initiation of work less frictional next time. And underneath all of it, the vagus nerve is listening to your breathing and posture as votes for safety. Vote often. Here's a relationship vignette, because spirals don't respect domains. Naomi stared at a text from her sister. Can we talk later? 3 words, universes of interpretation. Her body registered heat in the face, a faint pressure behind the eyes. The old dynamic Naomi the mediator revved up, ready to over-prepare for an imaginary trial. She put the phone down on the coffee table, cool glass against wood, and felt the soft give of the cushion beneath her. Weather, twinge of dread, breath high. Cognitive triage. Now reply with a time that works. Next, jot 3 things I need from that conversation. Not yet, decide whether to visit this month. Fact-fiction filter. Facts, 3-word text, no details, no missed calls. Stories, I'm in trouble, she's upset with me, this will hijack my weekend. 2-minute map. She typed, yes, 7 p.m. works, calling then. Then she wrote 3 needs on a sticky note. Listen first, say I'm open to feedback, ask for a plan we both can keep. 7 p.m. came. The talk was about a logistics question for their parents. Naomi's nervous system healed a notch. The world is not obliged to match your forecast. Your job is to meet it with clear air. There will be hours when clarity feels like a trick of the light. You'll triage and filter and still feel the buzz. That doesn't mean the framework's failed. It means chemistry is taking a little longer to metabolize. In those hours, keep the identity line close. You are the awareness, not the emotion. You are the one placing thoughts on a sorting table, not the thoughts themselves. That stance creates just enough distance to pick up the next tool instead of being the tool. Refine the 2-minute map with a sensory anchor. Before you start, touch something with texture, the spine of a book, the grain of the desk, the fabric of your sleeve. Say, begin map and breathe once, then start. When the timer ends, say, map closed, and take the smallest celebratory action, stand, stretch, sip water. Celebration is not silliness. It tags the behavior with pleasure, which your habit system remembers better than scolding. If you're tempted to use triage as a way to avoid deep work indefinitely, set a guardrail. After 2 2-minute maps on the same project, roll into a 10-minute immersion. Start the timer, pick one micro-outcome, and stay with it as you would stay with a friend. You don't bolt because the conversation meanders. Immersion proves to your nervous system that focus is survivable. The first minute is often the noisiest. After that, attention starts to hold itself like a bike after the first few wobbly pedals. Picture a late afternoon. Light slants through blinds, turning the wall into a barcode. You feel the day slipping and the fear that you didn't do enough sharpening like a chill. This is where overthinkers often do performative productivity, rearranging digital stickies, reading about pages instead of pages that matter. You won't do that. You'll triage brutally, now send the one email that unblocks someone else. Next, write 3 sentences toward tomorrow's deliverable. Not yet restructure the entire plan. Filter, facts, I have 40 minutes, 2 people are waiting on me, my brain is tired. Stories, if I don't finish everything now I'm behind forever, they're disappointed, I've already blown it. 2-minute map, send the unblock email. Then 10-minute immersion, 3 sentences unpolished. When you stop, you will not feel triumphant, you will feel quieter. Quiet is a sign you steered the boat, not that a band should play. Keep an eye out for the pattern where fog arrives when boundaries are thin. Overthinking often fills the space where a boundary would have prevented confusion. If an ask is vague, your brain writes a frightening script. Use clarity as a boundary tool. 1 sentence can prevent a day of spiraling. To make sure I hit the mark, can you share the top 2 outcomes you want? What does ASAP mean in calendar time? Which matters more, speed or polish? It takes 10 seconds to ask. It saves 10,000 seconds of guesswork. Science agrees. Reducing ambiguity reduces threat response. Your amygdala wants to know what lion to watch. Give it a fence line. A story from the trenches. Omar was a junior developer who hid his confusion because he thought asking revealed incompetence. He'd get a request like make it cleaner and spend nights cleaning everything, then ship something technically elegant but misaligned. The Spiral soundtrack, you're not cut out for this. We practiced a single boundary question using the fact-fiction filter first. Facts. Feedback says cleaner, deadline Friday, no specific measure given. Stories, they hate the architecture, I'm barely hanging on. Boundary sentence. When you say cleaner, do you mean fewer steps for the user, less code, or a visual change? The first time he asked, the reply came back, fewer steps. He removed 1 click and hit the target. His nervous system collected evidence that clarity is kindness, not proof of failure. The loop that once ran on guesswork now runs on questions. Touch your jaw again, let it soften. Feel the slight cool at the back of your throat on the inhale, the warmth leaving on the exhale. Place your hand flat on the desk. Notice the pressure, the shape of your hand, the micro texture beneath your fingertips. Bring to mind one place in your life where fog routinely visits. Imagine placing a sign at the entrance. Now, next, not yet. Imagine a second sign, facts now, stories later. See yourself walking in, reading the signs, and beginning anyway. One last practice to weld clarity to identity. At the end of each day, take 60 seconds to run the clarity echo. Whisper, today I turned fog into a step when and name 1 instance, however small. Tomorrow, when fog returns, I will, and name a single behavior, triage out loud, run the filter, touch texture, and map for 2 minutes. This tiny debrief trains your hippocampus to store the memory of success, so your RAS can retrieve it when panic tries to cite precedent for failure. You weaponize your own history in your favor. You don't owe your life to the loudest thought in the room. You owe your life to the wisest behavior you can take in the next minute. Cognitive triage gives you lanes. The fact-fiction filter gives you lenses. The 2-minute map gives you motion. Together, they turn the messy middle of modern life into a sequence you can walk with dignity. And through all of it, this identity refrain protects you when old habits knock. You are the awareness, not the emotion. You are the one who sorts, filters, and moves 1 clean inch at a time. As you close this chapter, breathe in for 4, out for 6. Feel gravity's quiet tug. Hear the nearest sound. Decide you're next and you're not yet for the next hour. Label 3 facts and 3 stories about the thing you're avoiding. Start a 2-minute map. When the timer ends, look around at the ordinary world, light, dust, objects, your own hands, and register that clarity isn't a miracle. It's a method, and you just practiced it. There's a particular flavor of spiral born not from danger, but from distraction. You sit down to focus, and your mind scatters like a flock of birds. One flies toward email, another toward the unfinished conversation, another toward snacks. 10 open loops hum like neon. The louder they hum, the more your attention tries to mute them by touching each one for a second. That's not focus. That's a nervous system begging for a leader. In this chapter, you'll learn to lead your attention with 2 frameworks. The first is the Attentional Spotlight Reset, or ASR, a 30-second ritual that gathers your scattered beams into one clean cone. The second is the 3-perspective reframe, which turns self-criticism into useful guidance without the sugarcoating that makes your inner skeptic roll its eyes. We'll anchor them with a micro-drill called the distraction budget, so your day stops, leaking tiny bits of willpower like a punctured hose. Start by noticing the physics of attention in your body. When you're scattered, your breath rides high and thin, your eyes dart, your neck cranes toward the next ping. The room is the same room, desk, light, the soft scrape of a chair when you shift, but inside your skull it's a carnival with all the booths yelling at once. Put your feet on the floor. Feel the pressure through your heels. Inhale for 4, hold for 2, exhale for 6. Let the exhale lengthen your neck from the inside. That's the prelude to ASR. The Attentional Spotlight Reset has 3 moves in half a minute. Mark the target, build the cone, seal the perimeter. Mark the target means you state out loud, in one sentence, the single outcome you'll touch next. Not a task category, not a project label. A sentence that could be filmed. Write the first paragraph of the intro. Reconcile 3 transactions. Draft the reply to Alex asking for Tuesday or Thursday. The brain loves concreteness. It hates abstraction during threat. Build the cone means you create one sensory anchor that belongs to this outcome. Cursor blinking in a blank dock. The feel of the calculator's keys. The sound of your own voice reading the sentence you're composing. Seal the perimeter means you commit a distraction budget before you begin. How many times you'll allow your eyes to leave the target or your hand to touch the phone during the next 10 minutes. The number can be as low as 0 or as generous as 2. The act of deciding is the muscle. You're not trying to be a saint, you're becoming a conductor. Ravi discovered this on a Tuesday at 10:12 a.m., the hour he usually lost to just checking. Sunlight warmed the desk. The hum of the HVAC traced a faint line through the room. His proposal draft glared at him from the screen like a disappointed aunt. He did ASR. Target, write the opening problem paragraph, 4 sentences, ugly is fine. Cone, he placed one hand lightly on the keyboard to feel the home row bumps under his index fingers, and he let the soft blink-blink of the cursor be his metronome. Perimeter, distraction budget of 1 glance at messages, no touching the phone. He set a 10-minute timer. Halfway through, a Slack bubble winked in the corner of his eye. He felt the twitch in his neck. Budget says 1 glance. He glanced, saw nothing on fire, and returned. The paragraph wasn't art, but when the timer ended, there were 4 sentences on the page and a nervous system that felt less like a cat in a thunderstorm. He had led his attention instead of chasing it. As you try this, make it physical. Notice the temperature of the air across the back of your hands. Feel how your ribs widen on the inhale. Say your target out loud, even if it's a whisper. Touch a texture, wood grain, fabric, the cool edge of a mug, and designate it as the cone builder for this session. Set your distraction budget with a number that feels honest, not aspirational. If your mind is particularly loud, give yourself 2 glances, not 0. Success teaches faster than shame. Now for the 3 perspective reframe, a lens that stops your inner critic from swinging a wrecking ball through your day. When you spiral about performance, you tend to inhabit one cramped viewpoint, the I who must not fail. This lens magnifies threat and erases nuance. The reframe rotates you through 3 seats: coach, scientist, and friend. Coach speaks in verbs and specifics, not judgments. Shorten the opening, ask for the outcome before detail. Scientist notices patterns and runs micro-experiments. When I start at 10, focus holds longer than when I start at noon. Test a 50-minute block. Friend protects your dignity and energy. You're allowed to be new at this. Eat and come back. You take 90 seconds to write 1 sentence from each seat about the same problem. Then you pick the smallest wise action all 3 would endorse. Picture Selene slumped in an office chair at 4:30, the light outside already turning the city the color of old coins. She'd just come out of a meeting where her slides were fine, but her delivery felt wooden. The old narrative crawled up her spine: you can't speak. They're bored, you should avoid these. She placed her feet flat, felt the cool of the floor through thin soles, exhaled longer than she wanted to. 3 seats. Coach, cut the preamble, laid with a single sentence: outcome next time. Scientist, when I rehearsed standing, delivery flowed. Test rehearsal standing again. Friend, it's okay to feel clunky. Eat something warm before 3 p.m. and your brain won't be running on fumes. Smallest wise action endorsed by all 3. Write 1 clear outcome sentence for tomorrow's sync and tape it to the monitor. She wrote, by the end, we will decide between A and B with 1 next step. The spiral didn't vanish. It softened into instructions. The next day, people leaned forward instead of away. Right now, try on the 3 seats with a small sticking point. Hear the soundscape where you are, even if it's quiet. There's a texture to quiet, a fine grain hiss. Label the weather. Breathe 4-4-6 once. Write 1 sentence as coach, 1 as scientist, 1 as friend. Notice the shift in tone between them. Choose a smallest wise action they can agree on and do 1 inch of it in the next minute. Open the doc, create the calendar block, draft the first line. A brief science bridge to keep your skeptic in the room. Your reticular activating system follows the lead you give it. When you mark a target aloud, you create a salience tag. Your RAS obliges by filtering in cues related to that target and filtering out noise. When you set a distraction budget, you reduce the guilt spikes that come with failure, keeping your amygdala calmer. Calmer chemistry preserves working memory. Running the 3 perspective reframe recruits different neural networks: procedural, analytical, affiliative, which prevents any single alarmed narrative from monopolizing blood flow. You are not tricking your brain, you're offering it more useful options than panic or perfection. There's a domestic scene that shows how portable this is. Tamsin was making dinner, a simple pasta, when her partner walked in and said, "Did you remember the email to school?" The question was neutral, the nervous system was not. Tamsin's chest tightened, a pressure pulsed behind her eyes. An old spiral: you forget, you drop balls, reached for the wheel. Without pausing the stir of the sauce, she whispered ASR. Target, open phone, draft 2 lines to the teacher. Cone, the feel of the phone case under her thumb, the warmth of steam on her face. Perimeter, 1 glance at unrelated messages aloud. 10 minutes later, the email was sent, the pasta al dente, and her mood intact. She didn't transform into a productivity robot. She became a person who could thread a single clear action through a noisy room. If you want to deepen ASR, add the eye horizon trick. Your visual system is tied to threat response. When you stare at a glowing rectangle 10 inches from your nose, your body interprets it as near threat and primes for micro-survival. Every 15 minutes, lift your gaze to an object across the room or a view out a window. Let your eyes soften and take in the wider horizon for 15 seconds. This retinal expansion signals safety to your midbrain. Then return to your cone. You'll feel a surprising increase in patience, as if the room got a fraction bigger. There's a temptation to use focus tools to punish yourself. No breaks, no joy, a monastic vow enforced with apps. That backfires. So pair ASR with a humane cadence called the 50-10 drift. After 50 minutes of targeted work, you take a 10-minute drift where you move your body, look at far distances, sip water, let your thoughts idle without deciding anything. Drift is not derailment. It's a reset of neurochemistry and posture that prevents the late-day crash. You can even run a friend perspective sentence before you drift. Nice work, get sunlight on your retinas and come back. This maintains identity, someone who works with their biology, not against it. Here's a student vignette for scale. Leo, a second year, tended to sprint at 11 p.m. on caffeine and dread. Papers felt like cliffs. We installed a distraction budget of 2 for each 30-minute block and ASR before each block. Target, write the method's paragraph. Cone, read it out loud as I write. Perimeter, 2 glances at messages. He also ran 3, perspective reframe each morning. Coach, write ugly early. Scientist, my best blocks are 9:11 a.m. Friend, bring a snack you forget to eat. 3 weeks later, he wasn't suddenly a different person. He was a slightly steadier one. Grades rose a notch. More importantly, Sunday nights no longer felt like a fire alarm. Feel your own body now. Your jaw can unclench by 5% without anyone noticing. Your shoulders can drop the width of a coin. Let your exhale be a few counts longer than your inhale. Imagine your attention as a handheld spotlight with a comfortable grip. You can swing it lazily across the room, or you can aim it on a small circle and watch dust motes become galaxies. You decide where the beam goes next. Because overthinking often blooms in social contexts, run the 3-perspective reframe before a tricky conversation. Coach, open with the outcome you want, ask one clear question, pause. Scientist, in past talks I jump in too fast, test a 3-second silence. Friend, breathe and be kind to your own face, soften your eyes. Smallest wise action, write the first sentence now. I want us to leave with 2 decisions. Can I ask you first what matters most to you here? That's not manipulation. It's leadership of the moment. Your spiral would otherwise fill with apologies and speed. If your environment is a chaos amplifier, tame it with the one-touch rule for inputs. When a message arrives, decide in one touch whether it's a now, a next, or a not yet. If it's not yet, protect it with a container, a folder, a label, a calendar block. This prevents low-priority pings from hovering like mosquitoes, making your body swat at air. Pair one touch with a twice-daily window check, morning and mid-afternoon. Run a 30-second ASR to retarget your spotlight on the day's real hinge. The hinge is the piece that moves other pieces. Moving hinges is how days feel like progress instead of noise. A moment of honesty. There will be days when even with ASR and reframes, your attention feels like a puppy who has discovered a squeaky toy. On those days, shorten the leash. Work in 7-minute clips. Put your distraction budget at 1. Use the eye horizon trick every clip. Keep the friend perspective close by. You're here, that's enough. We'll widen later. The goal is not perfect performance. It's a nervous system that trusts you to call the next play kindly. Close your eyes for 10 seconds. Notice the dim light through your lids. Hear the softest sound in the room. Feel the way the chair takes your weight without complaint. Whisper the identity line we keep returning to because it makes every tool more powerful. You are the awareness, not the emotion. Extend it here. You are the awareness, not the distraction. You are the one who points the light. When you open your eyes, pick one tiny practice to install for the next hour. ASR before you touch the next task. 3 seats reframe before you judge your output. A distraction budget for the block you're about to start. If you like rituals, tap your desk twice to begin, twice to end. Silly works if it's consistent. Your basal ganglia will memorize the cadence and bring you the spotlight when the carnival starts shouting. One last story to root this in a day you might recognize. It was late, the city outside rinsed in orange sodium glow. Amir stared at a blank message he needed to send, pricing for a small contract that felt oddly high stakes. He could feel heat in his ears, a tight rope around his chest. Old Spiral, you're going to price wrong and they'll leave. He ran ASR with a whisper. Target, write 3 options with 1 sentence each. Cone, read each option out loud softly. Perimeter 0 glances, 10 minutes. Then the 3 perspective reframe. Coach, anchor each option in an outcome. Scientist, last time they chose the middle tier, offer a clear middle. Friend, you can sleep after this. You don't need to earn rest by suffering. 10 minutes later, the email was sent. It wasn't perfect. It was clear. He lay back and felt the mattress hold him like a lake holds a boat. The world didn't change, he did. You won't stop spirals by becoming a different species. You'll stop them by becoming exquisitely good at simple moves. Mark the target, build the cone, seal the perimeter, rotate your seat until your own advice becomes usable. Lead your attention like a kind adult holding a flashlight on a dark trail. If you slip and the beam wanders into the trees, that's okay. Bring it back. That act, returning without scolding, is the beginning of mastery. Breathe once more. Count 4 in, hold 2, 6 out. Feel the air cooler on the inhale, warmer on the exhale. Let your gaze lift to the horizon for 15 seconds, then return to your target. Decide your distraction budget for the next block right now. Begin before your brain petitions for permission. You are the one holding the light. You are the sky the weather moves through. Some spirals don't start in your head. They start at the edges of your life where there isn't a fence. You say yes because you're kind, because you can, because it will only take a minute. Minutes become hours, yesies become silent contracts, and by Friday your calendar looks like a game of Tetris played by someone who hates you. Overthinking pours into that open space, and the soundtrack gets cruel. If you were more organized, more generous, less selfish, more resilient, none of this would feel so heavy. It's not a character flaw, it's physics. Without boundaries, mental load expands to fill every available pocket. In this chapter, you'll build 2 structures that stop that expansion. The first is the boundary beacon, a simple way to decide what you protect this week and how you'll communicate it without drama. The second is the yes, no ladder, a stepwise way to say no that preserves relationships and your nervous system. We'll wire both to a micro drill called the 1-breath boundary, so you can hold a line even when your heart rate spikes. Before we build, notice how a weak boundary feels in your body. Your phone buzzes and there's a quick, sour pinch at the base of your skull. Your breath jumps to your upper chest. Your jaw slides forward a millimeter as if your mouth is getting ready to defend itself. The room smells like coffee and paper and the faint ozone of electronics. Your eyes dart to the notification. Even before you read it, your shoulders have already agreed to carry it. Pause. Inhale for 4, hold for 2, exhale for 6. Name the weather, pressure behind the eyes, microheat in cheeks, mind predicting an obligation. This is the moment the spiral usually borrows your voice and says yes for you. Today, you're going to install a beacon. The boundary beacon is nothing esoteric. It's a weekly declaration, one sentence that names the domain you're protecting and the reason that matters. You state it to yourself each morning and to relevant humans once per week. You write it where you will trip over it. This week, I protect deep work from 9:11 a.m. so I can deliver the strategy we promised. This week, I protect dinner with family, phones away, because connection is my fuel. This week, I protect sleep before 11. Future me deserves a brain that works. Your reticular activating system needs a headline. The beacon is that headline. It gives your attention a bias toward decisions that align with the sentence. Then you add two guardrails, an entry sentence and an exit sentence. The entry sentence asks for clarity before commitment. What outcome and by when? The exit sentence maintains dignity when declining. I'm at capacity. Here's what I can do instead. You're not being difficult. You're being clear air in a foggy world. Luca learned this on a wet Wednesday when rain stitched the city into a grey sweater. He was the go-to helper at work, which meant his own projects lived in a permanent twilight. The Slack pinged. A teammate wrote, "Quick favor, could you review this doc before lunch?" Luca's stomach hollowed. He could feel his thumb rushing to type sure before his prefrontal cortex had entered the room. But Tuesday night he had written a beacon. This week I protect 9/11 for the migration plan. It unlocks 3 teams. He breathed once, felt the coolness in his nostrils, and used the entry sentence. Happy to help. What's the outcome and by when? The teammate replied. High-level check by EOD. Luca used the exit sentence shaped to the beacon. I'm at capacity 9/11 with the migration. I can review between 2:30 or first thing tomorrow. Which helps? The reply came back grateful, not angry. The doc could wait. At 10:47, Luca pushed a chunk of the migration, and the relief felt less like victory and more like oxygen returning to a room. Right now, write your beacon for the next 7 days. Whisper it as you write so your body hears your voice choosing. This week I protect, and finish the sentence. Feel the pen move, hear the slight scratch if you're on paper. If you're typing, feel the small spring of keys. Add your entry sentence and your exit sentence, customized to the area you're protecting. Place the words somewhere tactile, the side of your monitor, the Notes app pinned to the top, a sticky note on your wallet. Your nervous system needs literal contact with your future self's intentions, so it trusts you when a moment of pressure arrives. Boundaries aren't just logistics, they're biology. Your nervous system is a social organ. It co-regulates. When you say yes while your body is screaming no, you create an internal mismatch that your brain reads as threat. Cortisol rises, heart rate variability drops, and your thinking narrows. This is why a 2-minute quick favor can cost you an hour of focus. But when you hold a kind line, you reduce uncertainty and restore agency, 2 factors that immediately lower limbic activation. You're not being selfish. You're crafting a chemistry that lets you be useful on purpose. Now the yes, no ladder. Saying no cold turkey can feel like jumping off the roof of a building your family still lives in. The ladder gives you rungs so you can climb down instead. 5 rungs, 1 breath at a time. First rung, clarify, ask the smallest question that turns ambiguity into a concrete ask. Second rung, context, state your current priority in 1 sentence, anchored to your beacon. Third rung, alternative, offer a smaller scope, a later time, or a resource. Fourth rung, consent, ask if the alternative works. Fifth rung, close, affirm relationship and move. You can step off after any rung, you don't owe all 5 each time. The magic is the first rung. Clarify pauses the automatic yes and lets your prefrontal cortex write the rest of the script. A small kitchen story. Ren, 2 kids, a job with 1,000 moving parts, stood barefoot on cool tile rinsing apples when a text came in from the PTA. "Could you lead the fundraiser this month?" His chest lifted to his throat. Old pattern, say yes, drown, resent. He ran the ladder. Clarify, what does leading include? Time estimate and key tasks. The reply, 2 planning calls, a few emails, about 6 hours total. Context, this week I'm focused on a product launch and bedtime with the kids. Alternative, I can create the email template and share it by Friday, but I can't lead. Consent, would that help? Close, appreciate you thinking of me. The answer came back, template would be amazing. Ren dried his hands and felt his pulse slow. The apples tasted sharper, better. Boundary held, relationship kept, spiral averted. Try the ladder aloud with your own voice so the words fit your mouth. Pick a request you expect soon, a colleague who drops ASAP, a relative who thinks your weekend is communal property, your own inner manager who acts like rest is illegal. Say a clarify question. State your context with a nod to your beacon. Offer one alternative that is materially helpful. Ask if it works. Close with a sentence that keeps the door open for future good requests. Feel your face as you speak. Can you soften your eyes a fraction? Your tone is a nervous system signal. Soft eyes tell both bodies safety is present even when boundary is firm. Workers who carry invisible load often fear that boundaries will cost them belonging. The opposite is true in healthy systems. Clarity earns trust because people can count on your yes to mean yes and your no to mean no. In unclear systems, your boundary becomes a lantern others borrow. The first time you say, "What outcome by when?" in a meeting, watch how many shoulders relax. The amygdala hates fog. You're helping the room see the ground. Install the micro drill that makes all of this survivable in the heat of the moment, the one-breath boundary. When a request lands and your chest tightens, you do not draft a legal argument. You take one deliberate breath, 4 in and 6 out, and you speak one of 3 phrases depending on the ladder rung you need. Happy to help. What outcome and by when? If you need clarify. I'm heads down on X until Y. I can A by Z if you need context and alternative together. Or when no is the correct answer, I'm at capacity and can't take this on. Thanks for understanding. You don't justify, you don't recite a saga. You let breath carry your voice across your own adrenaline. A scene in a fluorescent hallway. Min was about to sit down for lunch. The microwave hummed. The office smelled like reheated curry when a senior manager leaned in. "Can you just pull the numbers for the board before 2? Min's heart thudded once hard. The old reflex rose. Yes, of course. Then Min heard the word, just that linguistic trapdoor. One breath boundary. Inhale, hold, long exhale. Clarify. Which numbers by 2 exactly? The manager blinked, recalibrated. Top-line revenue by region last 2 quarters. Context. I'm delivering the security report at 1. That needs 90 minutes. I can compile revenue by 4. Alternative. Or I can send last quarter S and add the new data by morning. Consent. Which works? The manager thought for a beat. 4 is fine. Min ate while food was warm and delivered solid numbers later. The board did not fall apart. Min's nervous system learned it could survive advocacy. As you practice, integrate the sanctuary room. A mental space will build across this book. It's a plain, quiet room you return to between yes and no. The floor is wood, bare and warm. A single chair faces a window. Light changes across the wall as the day moves. When a request arrives, you step into the sanctuary room for the length of 1 breath. In that breath, your identity gathers. You are the awareness, not the emotion. You are the one who chooses your contributions. Then you speak from there, not from panic's hallway. Over time, your nervous system will start to feel the edge of that room in your actual body, an inner pause where choice lives. Short science bridge. Boundaries reduce decision fatigue, a killer of executive function. Every unspoken no leaves a low-grade process running in the background of your brain, consuming glucose and attention. Speaking a boundary closes processes. Closing processes frees working memory, which directly improves your ability to plan, solve, and connect. Polyvagal theory reminds us that voice prosody carries safety. A slow exhale gives you warmer tone. People hear your calm boundary as respect, not threat. You become the steady one, not the avoidant one. Every boundary has grief. You will disappoint someone someday. You will disappoint your own fantasy of being endlessly available. Grief will nudge your ribcage like a small hand asking for attention. Invite it to sit beside you for a minute, then decide anyway. Values-led living does not wait for universal applause. You're choosing to be the person who delivers what they promise without burning down the furniture to keep everyone else warm. Run a rehearsal now for a boundary that scares you slightly. Feel your feet in your shoes, the texture of the insole, the pressure at the ball of your foot. Hear the nearest sound and the farthest sound. Picture the person's face soft, not hostile. Most people aren't attacking, they're just asking. Whisper your clarify question. Speak your context linked to your beacon. Offer your alternative. Ask consent. Close. Notice how your heart rate spikes and then settles on the exhale. You are not practicing to win an argument. You're practicing to remain yourself. Because the spiral loves to weaponize generosity, create a joy budget alongside your distraction budget. Name 2 places you will say a full-bodied yes this week that cost little and feed you much. Help a colleague with something you love doing. Bring soup to a neighbor. Read a story to a kid with all the voices. When your nervous system knows there is planned generosity, it stops trying to buy belonging with every unplanned request. You become dangerous in the best way. A person whose yes is nourishment, not self-erasure. A messy domestic snapshot. Mara's mother calls on Sunday mornings with a list of worries and a black belt in guilt. The calls leave Mara wrung out, then she spirals about being a bad daughter. We didn't fix the mother, we changed the boundary. Beacon, this month I protect Sunday mornings for rest and planning. Yes, no ladder ready, 1 breath boundary at the start of the call. Clarify, I have 10 minutes, what would help most to talk about? Context, I'm keeping this short so I can prep for the week. Alternative, let's pick Wednesday evening for a longer chat. Consent, does that work? Close, warmth in the voice, I love you. The first week felt awkward, like learning to write with the other hand. By week 3, calls were calmer and Wednesday became a ritual with tea. Mara's nervous system stopped bracing on Sundays. Her relationship improved because her nervous system stopped associating mother with dread. No boundary tool matters if you never use it when your internal critic hisses you're selfish. Install the shadow gratitude to keep your compass humane. After you say no, name 1 thing about the person you appreciate. I'm grateful they trust me with important work. I appreciate their courage in asking. Your brain needs that line to prevent boundaries from calcifying into contempt. Self-respect and respect for others can live in the same sentence. If you slip, and you will, and you say yes when you meant no, you're not doomed to drown. Run a repair loop in 3 steps. Step 1, recognition, I said yes beyond my capacity. Step 2, renegotiate, I can deliver A by Thursday or B by Monday, which do you prefer? Step 3, reaffirm, I still care about the outcome. Repair teaches your nervous system that a misstep isn't catastrophe. Catastrophe thinking is spiral fuel. Repair is spiral antidote. Touch something cool where you are, the rim of a glass, a window, the metal of a pen. Let that temperature register. Take a breath that is unhurried and longer out than in. Say your beacon again softly. Say your entry sentence once. Say your exit sentence once. This is you installing a reflex. Stimulus, breath, sentence. Over time, the sentence will arrive before the guilt does. That's neuroplasticity wearing a good pair of shoes. In teams, spread the boundary gospel through norms, not sermons. Begin a meeting with, what outcome by when? End with, what will we protect to make that outcome happen? Watch how quickly ambiguity drops. Ambiguity is expensive. Clarity is a discount you can offer everyone without losing a penny. If your culture punishes boundaries, the problem is not you, it's oxygen. Even then, you can take small steps that signal to your own system that you will not abandon it. Put lunch on your calendar like it's a meeting with someone you respect. Turn off preview notifications and check messages at the top of the hour. Put your phone in another room for the first 90 minutes of work. These are private boundaries. They don't require permission. Private boundaries build the spine you need for public ones. A last story to anchor this, in a breath you can take later tonight. Devin runs a tiny design studio out of a spare bedroom that smells faintly of clean laundry and ink. A dream client emailed at 9:13 p.m. with a quick update that was a quiet ask to start weekend work for free. The old Devin would have said yes and stewed while the pasta overcooked. The new Devin had a beacon taped above the monitor. This week I protect studio hours. Sustainable keeps me sharp. One breath boundary. Clarify, can you share the exact change in the timeline? The reply revealed scope creep. Context, I'm at capacity this weekend to protect project quality. Alternative, I can begin Monday, revised estimate attached. Consent, shall I proceed? Close, appreciate the momentum. The client agreed. Devin sat down to eat, the fork warm in the hand, the sauce garlicky, the room quiet except for a neighbor's laugh filtering through the wall. That laugh didn't feel like a mockery of his boundaries. It felt like a soundtrack to a life being lived on purpose. Bring the sanctuary room to mind one more time. Step inside. Sit in the chair. Put your hand on the window frame, wood cool under your palm. Say to yourself gently the identity line that keeps your spine available when pressure mounts. You are the awareness, not the emotion. And extend it for this chapter. You are the awareness, not the request. You choose your yes so it stays bright. You choose your no so your future isn't mortgaged. You respect others by letting them know where you end and they begin. That line isn't a wall. It's a bridge with weight limits posted so it never collapses under a bus you didn't agree to carry. When the next ping arrives, you won't be perfect, but you will be different. The breath will come, the sentence will follow, and the spiral will have fewer places to hide. You are becoming a person whose nervous system trusts them. From that trust, clarity blooms. The loudest spirals are born from an inner voice that thinks it's keeping you safe. It predicts embarrassment before anyone looks, failure before you've begun, exile because you took a breath between messages. It speaks in absolutes and supercuts your worst 2 minutes into a movie it plays on repeat. You don't silence this voice by arguing with it for hours. Arguing is fuel. You change your relationship to it and give it a job it can actually do. In this chapter, you'll learn 2 frameworks that turn self-talk from a heckler into a spotter. The first is the Narrative Neutralizer, a protocol that strips catastrophic sentences of their courtroom robes so you can examine their actual fabric. The second is the Compassionate Constraint Loop, a way to speak to yourself with warmth while still tightening the screws on behavior that matters. You'll lace them with a micro drill, called the 30-second evidence board, so your brain doesn't get to manufacture exhibits without an audit. Begin with the texture of the critic in your body. Notice how your throat tightens when the thought lands, how the back of your neck gets hot, how your eyes narrow the world to a tunnel where only mistakes live. The room around you is stable, chair, desk, light, a faint scent of soap from your hands, but inside the climate shifts fast. Breathe in for 4, hold for 2, exhale for 6. Name the weather as we've practiced. Prickly heat under the skin, shallow breath, sentence flashing, you always mess this up. That sentence is a tool wielded by an alarm system. We'll take away its false authority and put it to work. The Narrative Neutralizer has 3 moves: downgrade, defuse, and design. Downgrade means you change the grammatical posture of the thought. Instead of "I am a failure," you say, "I'm having the thought that I failed this time." Then you step once more back. "I notice I'm having the thought that I failed this time." Defuse means you separate the thought from the body and from action. You locate it as a line of text or a voice in a particular place. This is a sentence on a ticker, left to right. A design means you ask the thought for a job it can do that doesn't involve judging your worth. You turn it into a scout. If you're here to help, what obstacle are you predicting? What's one prep step that would reduce it? Critics hate being repurposed, but they respond to assignment. The tone shifts from indictment to logistics. A scene in a hallway that smelled faintly of printer toner and last night's coffee. Priya was walking toward a meeting where she'd present early findings. She felt that familiar tug in the gut and the old line queued up. "You're not ready, you're going to ramble, they'll regret picking you." She touched the cool metal of a doorframe, breathed once, and ran the neutralizer. Downgrade. "I notice I'm having the thought that I'll ramble." Defuse. "Place that line on a marquee scrolling over my left shoulder." Design. Scout. "What obstacle?" The reply was fast. "No outcome sentence." She pulled out her phone, typed one line. "By the end we'll agree on 2 next tests." That was it. Inside the room her voice wasn't magnificent, it was enough. The spiral didn't direct the meeting, clarity did. Walking back out, Priya felt the cool air of the corridor on the damp skin at her temple and realized something new. Her critic wasn't gone, but it was quieter because it had been given a task. Feel your own breath now, the cool entering, the warmer air leaving. Hear a small sound you had ignored, the faint hum of a vent, a muffled laugh in another room, the tick of a clock. Your attention is your leash, your thought is the puppy. When you name the weather and downgrade the sentence, you shorten the leash without yanking. This matters biologically. Labeling the thought in distancing language reduces amygdala activation and re-engages prefrontal circuits. Treating the thought as a scout recruits problem-solving networks. You're not thinking positively, you're reassigning resources. To keep the scout honest, install the 30-second evidence board. When a catastrophic line appears, you give yourself half a minute to jot 2 columns, verifiable evidence and missing information. Verifiable evidence is what a camera would see. Missing information is what your threat system is pretending to know but doesn't. You don't seek counter-evidence for your ego, you seek sufficient evidence for action. 30 seconds is enough. The point is speed to clarity, not a dissertation. Here's Jamal on a quiet morning when the light through the blinds striped the floor like a barcode. He'd sent a proposal Friday. By Tuesday noon, no reply, his chest tightened. "They hated it, I overshot, I'm done." He grabbed a sticky note. Evidence, sent Friday 3:12 p.m., auto-reply out of office from one stakeholder, no red receipt from the other, no rejection mail. Missing information, whether they saw it, internal deadlines this week, their decision process. He breathed out longer than he wanted to and ran design. Scout, what prep step? He drafted a one-line nudge. Checking you saw this, happy to adjust scope, what timing helps. He scheduled it for 2 p.m. His body felt less like it was bracing for a fall and more like it was standing on a step. At 1:43, a reply, "Apologies, travel day, reviewing tomorrow." The spiral didn't earn the day. Touch your jaw lightly and invite it to soften by a few grams. Feel the chair take your weight. Let your shoulders drop the width of a coin. Put the next critic sentence you run into on the evidence board and give it 30 seconds. You'll notice the urge to keep listing missing information until it becomes a hole to hide in. That's rumination in costume. Stop at 30. Act on the smallest lever your scout recommended. Action teaches your brain a new precedent. We move with what we know. Critics thrive in ambiguity, but they also bloom around standards you care about. That's where the compassionate constraint loop lives. It has 4 beats: name the value, normalize the learning curve, narrow the behavior, and nourish the return. You lead with value. I care about clear writing/honest work, being on time because it's how I respect others. You normalize the learning curve. Of course, drafts are clumsy at first. Of course, new systems wobble. You narrow the behavior to one precise constraint. For the next hour, write in simple sentences. For the next week, leave 10 minutes earlier than you think you need. Then you nourish the return. Good job returning. That counts more than never leaving. Compassion prevents shame from stealing blood from the cortex. Constraint prevents kindness from becoming a permission slip for chaos. On a rain-polished sidewalk, Kayla rehearsed this loop on herself after missing 2 workouts and watching her brain turn 2 into always. The air tasted metallic. Her shoes squeaked faintly. Value, I move my body because it keeps my mood grounded and my mind clear. Normalize, 2 missed days in a rainy week is not a character diagnosis. Narrow, today 20 minutes rain jacket, leave the phone. Nourish, if I come back tomorrow, I get to count that as skill, not luck. She walked. By minute 6, her breath found rhythm. By minute 12, the critic had switched to a quieter channel, like a radio in another apartment. Science bridge, brief and grounded. Your negativity bias favors global conclusions from specific events. It's efficient but cruel. Compassion language downregulates threat circuits and increases HRV. Constraint language offers your basal ganglia a clear rule to encode. Pairing the two creates a habit loop in which kindness is not the end state, but the lubricant for precise action. Over time, you build identity not as soft on yourself or strict with yourself, but as someone who can hold 2 truths. You are worthy and you are responsible. Let's rehearse both frameworks alive in your body. Bring to mind a line your critic loves. You're behind. You'll embarrass yourself. You never follow through. Feel where the line lands, maybe a small ache behind the sternum, a tightening in the scalp. Downgrade it now. I notice I'm having the thought that I'm behind. Defuse it. Place the sentence on text floating 6 inches in front of me. Design a job. Scout what obstacle, what prep step. Listen. It might whisper, ambiguous task, pick a start line, or no calendar block, claim 1. Now speak the loop. Value, normalize, narrow, nourish. Then do the narrow step for 60 seconds. Open the doc and write a clumsy first line. Set the calendar block. Lay out your shoes. As you move, keep a fraction of attention on sensation. The warmth of your hands, the cool at the back of your throat, the way your breath feels rough for a few seconds and then smooths. Critic language also infects relationships. It translates small uncertainties into big indictments. They took a pause, bored. They texted K angry. They were quiet, hate me. Run the neutralizer out loud before a conversation you fear. Downgrade the story you're about to project onto a real human. Defuse, see it as text on a ticker. Design, ask it for the most generous, plausible interpretation you could test. Then pair the loop with a boundary. Value, I care about truth and warmth. Normalize, Hard talks feel hard. Narrow. Begin with outcome and a question, then shut up for 5 seconds. Nourish. I return to listening if I sprint away. I watched a version of this in a living room lit by the soft blue of evening. Matteo had begun to tell himself, after a long week of missed signals, that his partner was withdrawing. His stomach felt hollow. The room smelled like soy sauce from takeout. The critic line was sharp. "They're over me," he neutralized. "I notice I'm having the thought that they're withdrawing." He placed it on an imaginary caption at the bottom of the TV. Design, scout, what obstacle, lack of check-in. Loop, I care about us being honest. Of course, weary weeks scramble signals. Narrow, I'll ask, how are you feeling about us this week and what would help you feel closer? And then be quiet. Nourish, returning to eye contact counts, he asked. The answer wasn't a breakup, it was, I've been overwhelmed and embarrassed, I kept saying later. Can we do a walk tomorrow? The critic wasn't evil, it was imprecise. Precision is friendship with reality. Feel the temperature of the air on your forearms or the back of your neck. Hear one distant sound and one near. Let your gaze soften and widen to the edges of your peripheral vision for 10 seconds. Your nervous system reads this as safety. Then tighten the focus back to the next sentence here. You are practicing living in 2 gears, wide and narrow, so your inner narrator doesn't get to drive only in panic mode. Your reticular activating system will learn whatever you feed it. If you feed it absolutes, always, never, it will find matching sensations and call it proof. If you feed it scouts and evidence, it will start to bring you handles instead of hammers. A week from now, you won't be rid of your critic. You'll be fluent in handling it. That's adulthood for the mind, not silencing, but stewarding. Because overthinking often spikes around identity, create a tiny ritual called the nameplate. Before work or a demanding task, you write a name and a role on a scrap of paper and put it where you can see it. You are the editor who seeks clarity. You are the teammate who asks clean questions. You are the builder who finishes small. The brain loves names. The nameplate pairs with the loop. Value, normalize, narrow, nourish under that role. You are not pretending to be someone else. You are choosing which facet to lead with for the next slice of time. A short story in a classroom with cold fluorescent lights and a clock that ticked with theatrical insistence. Aria, new teacher, had a morning where her lesson plan crumpled under the weight of an unexpected fire drill. Her critic went cinematic. You're not cut out for this. At lunch, she did the nameplate. You are the teacher who adapts. Neutralizer. I notice I'm having the thought that I can't teach. Evidence board. Students returned. 2 asked questions. Principal said drill went as planned. 1 activity left. Loop. I care about giving them structure. Of course, first years wobble. Narrow. Write 3 simple instructions on the board and practice a calm voice. Nourish. If I return after chaos, that's the win. The afternoon wasn't perfect. It was steadier, and that steadiness is what students remember. Let's talk briefly about what not to do with the critic. Don't try to bury it under affirmations you don't believe. Your nervous system is allergic to lies. Replace, I am unstoppable with, I can take the next wise inch. Replace, everyone loves my work with, I can clarify the outcome and deliver 1 draft. Affirmations that declare the sky neon green confuse your prediction systems. Affirmations that point to a behavior teach your systems what to look for. Right now, place 1 hand over your sternum and notice the warmth beneath your palm. Let the weight of your hand be a cue of self-contact, not performance. Whisper a behavior-based line you can believe about today. I return. I ask a cleaner question. I do the next inch. Feel the skin under your hand rise a little on the inhale. That movement is the simplest proof of life and possibility. We build on that. Your critic will try one more trick when you get good at this. it will masquerade as standards. If you lower the bar, you'll become mediocre. The answer is compassionate constraint. You don't lower standards, you right-size steps. Excellence is not made of frantic sprints, it's made of repeated, recoverable efforts. Recovery requires warmth. Repetition requires constraint. Together, they beat spirals because spirals depend on extremes, perfect or worthless, everything or nothing. If you forget all of this in a hard hour, anchor to the line we keep returning to because it contains the antidote to fusion with any voice. You are the awareness, not the emotion. Extend it here. You are the awareness, not the narrator. You can hear it, hire it, or fire it. Hired as a scout, it helps. Hired as a judge, it harms. You decide its contract terms. One last kitchen vignette to stitch this to an ordinary evening. Danny stood at a sink, hands in warm water, the citrus smell of soap rising, replaying a mistake from a call. The critic presented the usual invice: you talked too much, they saw through you, this will cost you. The spiral beckoned, she breathed and ran the script. I notice I'm having the thought that I talked too much. Text on a ticker, scout, obstacle, no agenda. Behavior, write a one-line outcome for next time and a question to open the floor. Loop, I care about shared airtime. Of course I'll overfill when I'm nervous. Narrow, for tomorrow's check-in I'll write outcome, decide on a VS, and I'll ask, what matters most to you here? Nourish, if I drift, I return. She dried her hands on a rough towel and wrote the sentence on a sticky note. The kitchen wasn't a temple. It was a room where warm water, a citrus scent, and a decision intersected. That's where spirals are stopped. At the sink, on a sidewalk, in a hallway, breath by breath. Your mind is not an enemy camp to conquer. It's a village to manage with clear roles and good lighting. The narrative neutralizer gives you the streetlights. The compassionate constraint loop gives you the town charter. The evidence board is your daily bulletin. The nameplate is the sign over the workshop door. You don't wait for the village to be quiet to get to work. You ring a small bell, the one everyone recognizes, and you begin. Over days, the village learns your rhythm. Over weeks, your critic learns its new job description. Over months, you become someone who trusts their own voice enough to hear it without obeying it. Breathe once more, slower than is convenient. Feel the air cool at the back of your throat. Hear the nearest sound and the farthest one you can make out. Let your eyes widen to the horizon, then narrow gently to the next inch you will take. Whisper the identity cue, because identity is the thread that holds the tools together. You are the awareness, not the emotion. You are the awareness, not the narrator. From that quiet vantage, pick one sentence to write, one question to ask, one step to take. The voice will talk, you will move. That is how clarity wins. Some spirals are old ghosts wearing new clothes. A comment today brushes the same nerve a teacher touched years ago, and before you've finished your coffee, you're 12 again, throat tight, scanning the room for proof you're wrong. Your brain isn't cruel, it's efficient. It saves templates, moments when emotion burned bright, and tries to reuse them as guidance. The problem is the template rarely fits the present. In this chapter, you'll learn to update those templates in your nervous system, not just your thoughts. 2 frameworks will carry the work. The first is the Trigger to Truth Trace, or T3, a gentle path from why am I reacting like this to what is actually true now. The second is the Somatic Compass, a way to read your body's yes, no, maybe signals without letting adrenaline impersonate wisdom. We'll anchor both with a micro drill called the Recon Window, a brief sequence that uses your brain's natural memory reconsolidation phase to soften old loops. Begin inside your skin. Remember a time this week when a small thing felt big, a neutral K in a message, a colleague's sigh, a loved one saying later. Feel where that lands now. Maybe it's a press behind your sternum or a heat that crawls up your neck like rising ink. Hear the room's low soundtrack, the distant fridge hum, the faint traffic, your own breath skimming your throat. Name the weather, sudden pinch in chest, heat in cheeks, mind sprinting to old evidence. Inhale for 4, hold for 2, exhale for 6. Let the exhale be longer than your dignity thinks it should be. You are not trying to delete history. You're opening a door to update it. The Trigger to Truth trace has 5 quiet turns: catch, connect, contrast, correct, and choose. Catch means you notice the surge and label it as a trigger, old template pinged. Connect means you ask, what earlier scene does this echo? And let the first honest memory surface without demanding a perfect origin story. Contrast means you name 3 ways the present is different than the past: resources, roles, rules. Correct means you state 1 sentence of present tense truth that a camera would endorse. Choose means you pick a 1-inch action aligned with the truth, not the template. It reads simple, it feels like relief. A story from a hallway that smelled faintly of dry paper and lemon cleaner. Nia had shipped a draft to her manager, who replied, "Let's talk." 2 words and her stomach fell through a trapdoor. She could see 8th grade, red pen, see me, the shape of humiliation. Catch triggered. Connect, the classroom, the way the fluorescent lights buzzed like bees. Contrast, she is not 12. This is not a public board. Her manager has said she wants Nia to grow. Correct, current reality, email with no judgment. Calendar free at 3. Last review ended with great instincts. Choose, 1-inch action, write down 2 questions for the meeting. What outcome were you imagining? And which slide feels off by impact or clarity? Nia breathed, felt the cool of air on the inside of her nostrils, and copied the questions onto a sticky note. At 3, the talk was surgical, not scolding. After Nia toasted a slice of bread and ate it standing at her counter, butter melting into the warmth, and realized the taste of relief. Not sweet, not loud, steady. Your brain stores emotional intensity next to the memory, courtesy of the amygdala flagging, "Never forget this." But memory is not a stone, it's wet clay each time you recall it. When you vividly retrieve a template and then pair it with a discrepant, safe experience, the brain updates the file. That's reconsolidation. T3 is a way to invite that update without theatrics. You don't need a time machine, you need 5 moves and a breath. Now the somatic compass. Your body signals direction all day, but spirals distort the signal. Adrenaline can impersonate a no, and habit can impersonate a yes. The compass has 4 coordinates: open, close, lean, and leave. Open feels like subtle expansion, breath deepens, shoulders soften, vision widens. Close feels like shrinkage, breath high jaw forward, tunnel vision. Lean is a forward tug, curiosity without urgency. Leave is an internal step back, the sense that even if the mind argues, the body is already holding the line. You learn your compass by checking it on small decisions where nothing explodes. Then, when the stakes rise, you have a baseline. Practice in your chair. Think of having tea with a friend versus fixing your printer. Notice how your ribs move with each image. That's the compass playing in miniature. Tea may feel open, lean. Printer may feel close, leave. Now bring to mind the email or request you're pondering. Let your jaw unclench by 5%. Feel your feet. Ask, does this feel more open or closed? Lean or leave? Don't seek poetry, you're learning a dialect. Pair the read with a 4-4-6 breath and the fact. Fiction filter from earlier. Facts of the ask, stories you're telling, then your compass reading. Decisions improve when multiple systems agree. A moment in a sunlit kitchen. Jorge was offered a small weekend gig that promised exposure and a chance to get a foot in. His head did math. His chest went tight. He placed the offer in the compass, close leave. Then he ran a quick contrast in T3 past, scarcity saying yes to everything, present, 2 steady clients, sleep is part of the plan, values say family Sunday. Correct. I can afford to decline and offer a weekday window at my rate. Choose say, thanks for thinking of me, weekday openings next month at standard scope are available. The reply came 2 days later, let's book Tuesday. Jorge's body logged a new template, saying no is sometimes a bridge, not a door. To make the update stick, use the Recon Window microdrill. It's a 90 to 120-second sequence you run when the old template surges. Step 1. Retrieve the old echo on purpose for 5 seconds. Say, this reminds me of. Step 2. Tilt into sensation. Name 3 present moment anchors. The chair under you, the temperature on your forearms, a distant sound. Step 3. Enact a tiny contradictory experience that would have been impossible then, but is possible now. If then was silence under authority, now is asking one clean question. If then was helplessness, now is moving one object into order or sending one clarifying line. Reconsolidation doesn't require grand reenactments. It requires a felt mismatch between old fear and new fact. Your hippocampus files the mismatch with a C also. Picture Myra in a train car, metal smell and soft sway, replaying a colleague's hymn like a verdict. She ran recon. Retrieve 8th grade oral report laughter. Anchor cool window on her arm, the rhythm of wheels, child laughing 2 rows down. Mismatch, she opened notes and wrote, what would make you say yes to this slide, and sent it. The colleague replied during the ride, a before-after image would help. The old file updated a millimeter. You don't need miles in a day, millimeters compound. Right now pull a tiny ghost into the light, something that still makes your stomach dip. Speak the 5 T3 turns under your breath. Catch, connect. Contrast, name 3 differences between then and now. Correct 1 true sentence. Choose 1 inch. Then run the recon window, recall, anchor, mismatch. Feel the texture of the chair. Hear the hum that proves the room is not the room from back then. Put the smallest new fact into the world. Another story, this one in a meeting room where the carpet was too new and the air too dry. Armin had grown up in a house where raised voices meant danger. Now in a lively team debate, any volume spike shot static through his spine. He would go quiet and later berate himself for not contributing. T3 let him keep his voice. Catch, static. Connect, dining table, 2 adults arguing. Contrast, these are colleagues. There is HR, he can ask for a pause. Correct, the content is disagreement. The relationship is steady. Choose, say, quick pause so I can track. Are we arguing means or ends? His tone was steady because he'd exhaled before speaking. The room reset. Later, walking to the elevator, he felt the cool metal of the button smooth under his thumb and realized he hadn't betrayed himself by staying. He updated the template that said, raised voices equals threat. To raised voices can equals passionate problem solving plus permission to reset. A brief science bridge, practical and light. Prediction error, when reality contradicts your expectation, is the engine of updating. Your brain prizes it. But if the error is too big, your threat system rejects it as an anomaly. That's why we use inches, not cliffs. Tiny mismatches during the reconsolidation window teach your system new math. Your reticular activating system begins to search for proofs that the world is safer than the old file insists. Over weeks, you will feel an unfamiliar thing. The same triggers arrive, and your body stays more available for choice. Not calm yet, available. That availability is everything. The somatic compass needs calibration. Adrenaline can fake an open by promising relief, say yes, avoid discomfort, And old shame can fake a leave when you're actually invited to grow. Calibrate with the 24-hour check. After a decision, note how your body feels a day later. If relief is followed by resentment, you likely overrode a leave. If discomfort is followed by quiet pride, you likely honored a lean. Write one line in a notes file, said yes to X, next day resentment. Compass said leave, trust it. Took the scary call, next day steadiness. Compass said lean, follow it. This is not mystical, it's pattern recognition stored on purpose. At dusk in a small apartment that smelled like toasted cumin, Halima stared at an invitation to join a volunteer committee she respected and feared. Her chest felt both tight and bright. Compass read lean with an overlay of close. T3 provided context, past, speaking up punished, present, supportive chair, explicit norms. Correct. I can contribute one sub-project a month. Choose. I'm interested if I can lead the research piece only. The reply, perfect. We needed exactly that. The next evening she walked home after the first meeting under a sky the color of bruised plums, shoulders soft, pride quiet. Discomfort had signaled growth, not danger. The compass got sharper. Touch something cool where you are, the rim of a glass, a window frame, the metal of a pen. Let the temperature register on your skin, then let your breath lengthen by a count. Whisper the identity line that makes this work safe. You are the awareness, not the emotion. Extend it. You are the awareness, not the old template. Templates are suggestions, not orders. You can thank them for service and update the manual. Because old files love to return at night, install the night shift recode, a tiny routine before bed. While your pillow is cool and your room smells faintly of detergent or dust, run a 60-second T3 on the day's stickiest moment. Catch and connect in one sentence, triggered by the terse reply, echoed math class. Contrast by naming two present resources, a manager who gives context, a calendar I control. Correct with a line, we agreed on scope, no threat present. Choose the inch, draft one clarifying sentence for morning. Then place your palm on your chest and breathe 4-4-6 twice. This tags your hippocampus during sleep with file updated, so your dream committee stops auditioning villains for tomorrow's meeting. A small domestic vignette to bring this home. Etta's partner said, "Can we talk later?" And her nervous system lit up like a siren. Catch, connect, parent with a talk face, consequences, contrast, adult partnership, explicit agreement to name tone. Correct, they said later while touching my shoulder. Choose, reply, yes, what time works. Recon window. She looked at the lamp glow on the wall and the softness of the couch cushion, then sent the text. When the talk happened, it was about splitting chores. They designed a new sequence, and the next day the sync didn't transform into a referendum on worth. Etta's body learned a new ordinary. When you feel nothing but heat and you can't remember any framework, default to the simplest portable combo. Weather, compass, inch. Name the weather out loud. Check open, close, lean, leave. Choose 1 inch that honors the truest coordinate. If everything still screams, you're allowed to take a tactical retreat, 20 slow breaths, eyes on a horizon, or the sanctuary room we built in the last chapter. Retreat is not surrender, it's fueling. One more scene, this time in a creative studio where the air held the sweet chemical tang of markers. Theo's client said, "This isn't the direction," and something inside him wanted to either fight or vanish. Catch, connect, college critique that turned cruel. Contrast, paid project, shared aim, written brief. Correct, we agreed to explore, feedback is data. Choose, ask, which part aligns least with your aim? Compass said lean, even while close buzzed. Recon window, he stood, rolled his shoulders, and took a sip of water to mark the new moment. The client pointed to specificity. Theo revised one panel, then another. By afternoon, the room smelled like dried ink and relief. On the walk home, the city felt less like a courtroom and more like a set of streets he knew. Your history is not a life sentence, it's a syllabus. Some lessons get repeated until you take them with a new teacher. T3 makes you the teacher who updates the handout. The somatic compass makes you the student who trusts the signal under the noise. The recon window is the tiny lab where both meet and write a new footnote on an old page. As you close this chapter, sit a fraction taller. Let your eyes soften to take in the edges of your space, then return to one point. Feel the fabric on your shoulders, the weight in your hips, the slight warmth where your palm meets your thigh. Whisper the line that keeps you from fusing with any ghost. You are the awareness, not the emotion. And for these old storms, add, you are the awareness, not the template. Catch, connect, contrast, correct, choose, check the compass, take the inch. Every time you do, the past loosens its grip, and the present gets bigger. Some spirals arrive disguised as procrastination. You tell yourself you'll start after coffee, after one more scroll, after the desk is tidy, after you feel ready. Readiness never lands, the day drains through hairline cracks. You accuse yourself of laziness, but laziness isn't the culprit. Initiation is a neurological threshold. When your stress chemistry is high and your dopamine is low, the threshold feels like a wall. In this chapter, you'll learn how to lower that wall and walk through it. 2 frameworks will carry you. The first is the Activation Cascade, a sequence that turns the first 60 seconds of a task into a slide instead of a cliff. The second is Friction Sculpting, a way to rearrange your environment so good actions are downhill and bad ones feel like walking through molasses. We'll fuse them with a micro drill called the 5-object reset to give your body a physical handshake with momentum. Begin by noticing how not starting feels in your body. Your gaze skims and can't land. Your breath sits high as if your ribs have forgotten how to widen. The room is quietly loyal, lamp glow, a chair that has never once judged you, the faint, stale, sweet smell of yesterday's mug, but your chest tightens as if the task itself were glaring. Name the weather, buzzy forearms, shallow inhale, brain offering escape routes. Inhale for 4, hold for 2, exhale for 6. On the exhale, let your shoulders drop the width of a coin. You're not chasing motivation. You're building conditions that pull you forward, whether you feel cinematic or not. The Activation Cascade has 4 micro moves, all completed in about a minute. Preload, prime, micro-commit, and roll. Preload means you place the first 2 tools of the task in reach before you think. Open the doc and put the cursor in the box where words go. Set the spreadsheet to the exact tab. Lay out the shoes by the door pointing outward. Prime means you give your brain a cue it can tie to this task's identity, one line that names who you're being for the next slice of time. You are the builder who finishes small. You are the analyst who finds one signal. You are the friend who asks a clean question. Micro-commit means you promise a ridiculous minimum, 30 seconds of typing, 5 lines of numbers, 1 minute of movement. Roll means you use the momentum of completion to decide only the next inch, then the next. You're not summoning willpower, you're hijacking physics. A story from a kitchen that smelled like toast and early courage. Sam kept delaying a portfolio update that could change his job search. Each morning he'd tidy the counter, clean the inbox, read about design instead of designing. The Activation Cascade reframed the start. Preload. He opened the portfolio file the night before and left it full screen, cursor blinking in an empty project slot. Prime. He taped a small card above the screen. You are the curator who chooses one piece. Micro-commit 30 seconds to write the title of one project. Role: after typing City Market Rebrand, he added 3 bullet phrases about problem, constraints, outcome, then stopped on purpose at 90 seconds to preserve the sense that he could return without dread. The next morning, the blinking cursor didn't accuse him, it invited him. In 3 days, the update existed. Not perfect. Real. Feel the air on your cheeks, a half-degree cooler than the skin beneath. Hear the nearest sound, HVAC hum, city murmur, a bird who seems to have misread the schedule. Place your hand on the task object near you, the mouse, the notebook, the phone you'll use to dial, and let the texture give your nervous system a tactile anchor. Whisper your prime line. You are the awareness, not the emotion. Extend it here. You are the awareness, not the inertia. Now let's make gravity your ally. Friction sculpting is about redesigning your defaults so the path of least resistance points toward the life you're building. Your basal ganglia love paths. They don't care where they laid. You'll care for both directions. Reduce friction for the good. Increase friction for the spiral feeding. Reducing friction looks like pre-filling your water before bed, setting out the notebook open to the exact page, keeping the guitar on a stand instead of in a case, leaving the email draft window open with the subject already titled. Increasing friction looks like burying social media on the 4th screen behind a folder named Taxes, signing out after each session, using a separate browser for deep work, putting snacks in a high cupboard, and a bowl of apples within reach. These are not moral acts, they are mechanical. You're shaping a riverbed so water runs where you want. Consider Laurie, whose evening doom scroll kept kidnapping her sleep. She tried Be Stronger and failed. Friction sculpting did the job without insults. She bought a cheap outlet timer. At 10 p.m. the lamp near the couch clicked off. She moved her charger across the room and set her phone to grayscale after 9. She placed a paperback on the cushion and a blanket within reach. The first night felt strange, like moving to a town with earlier sunsets. On night 3, when the lamp clicked, she automatically stood, the floor cool under her soles, and walked the phone to the charger. Her eyes skimmed the room, landed on the book, and she sat, blanket over knees. The spiral that used to hiss, "One more video," had nowhere to climb. Habit is not a referendum on character. It's a set of levers. You're installing better ones. To fuse cascade and friction in live time, run the 5-object reset. When you feel stuck, you touch and place 5 objects to stage motion. Object 1, clear the immediate surface with one sweep. Give your eyes a clean horizon. Object 2, place your water within reach, signal fuel. Object 3, set timer or clock visible, signal container. Object 4, put the first tool of the task under your hand, signal start. Object 5, place the nearest distraction out of reach, signal boundary. While your hands do this, breathe 4-4-6 twice. Your body believes the room. Give it a room that believes in you. You might be wondering if all this ritual is avoidance dressed up as productivity. Look to the outcome. If the next inch happens, it's a bridge, not a detour. Your brain's initiation system relies on dopamine to mark the start line as rewarding. Tiny completions release tiny rewards. Repetition makes them reliable. Over days, your reticular activating system starts to filter for cues associated with progress. Cursor in box, timer set, prime line, lamp click, and your threshold lowers. You're not chasing motivation, you're training attraction to the start. A short story in a public library with that hushed, papery air that smells like time. May wanted to study for a certification exam, but felt her skull fill with fog each time she opened the book. Activation Cascade, preload by arriving with the book already open to the right chapter, prime with a card. You are the reader who extracts one rule. Micro-commit to 5 lines of notes. Roll into a 10-minute immersion. Friction sculpting. Sit at a table with her back to the room's main flow. Put her phone in airplane mode at the bottom of the bag. Place a highlighter and a pen where reaching for them felt like reaching for a light switch. She sat, felt the cool wood under her forearms, heard the soft cough of a stranger, and started. 10 minutes became 14. On the walk home, the winter air cut clean lines in her lungs. The sky felt higher. Notice your own sensory field again. This is not filler, it's a dial. Feel the subtle tug of gravity where your thighs meet the chair. Let your eyes soften to take in the edges of the room, then re-narrow to one point. Whisper, begin small. Put the object you need into your hand. Set a timer for 2 minutes and run a micro-commit. Words that exist beat words you intend. There is a trap inside. I'll start when I feel focused. Focus grows after you start, the way heat builds after you strike the match. The Activation Cascade manufactures that spark. To make it sturdier, layer in the 20-second rule for good friction. Anything you want to do more should be within 20 seconds of initiation. Anything you want to do less should be 20 seconds farther. If recording a thought takes opening a voice memo 1 tap away, you'll capture more. If checking news requires unlocking, searching, and re-signing in, you'll do it less when you're vulnerable. The 20 seconds aren't about time, they're about slope. Make your slopes honest. An office vignette, fluorescent lights buzzing like distant insects. Darius dreaded writing weekly updates. His spiral said every sentence must sound brilliant. We gave the task a cascade. Preload Friday afternoon, open Monday's update doc and write 3 dumb headings, done doing stuck. Prime Monday morning, you are the reporter who writes plainly. Micro-commit, 60 seconds to fill each heading with fragments. Roll, convert fragments to sentences for 5 minutes. Friction sculpting. Put the team chat on Do Not Disturb for 10, move the phone behind the monitor, set the dock window to full screen. Darius found that when the bones existed, the muscle arrived by itself. By week 3, he no longer argued with the dock. He walked in like someone who knew where the light switch lived. A brief science bridge to keep your mind on board. Initiation failure isn't laziness. It's often a mismatch in neurochemistry. When threat dominates, your prefrontal cortex downshifts. Long exhale breathing nudges the vagus nerve. Naming the prime identity recruits language areas. Micro-commit reduces perceived cost, which increases the expected value of starting. Environmental friction changes the affordances your brain computes when scanning the room. Each piece is a vote for safe to begin. Enough votes, and the mayor, your executive network, authorizes motion. Because avoidance often blooms where shame lives, pair the cascade with the gentle start clause. Say, I'm allowed to start badly, not as a loophole, as a policy. Your basal ganglia encode starts faster than they encode polish. Ugly beginnings teach your system that returning is safe. Safe systems produce better work. You'll have days when even a micro-commit feels like lifting a car. When that happens, shrink further with the doorframe drill. Every time you pass a doorway, touch the frame and ask, what is 1 inch I can do before the next doorway? Maybe it's closing 2 tabs. Maybe it's writing the subject line only. The doorframe turns architecture into a metronome. The point isn't volume, it's identity. I move by inches even when the tide is low. Here's a domestic snapshot for when life is loud. Nor worked from a small apartment where the scent of cumin and detergent braided with the hum of a neighbor's TV. At 3:15 p.m., energy crashed and Spirals offered snacks of doom. She installed a 3:10 ritual, 5-object reset, a single 4-4-6 breath, and a prime line. You are the finisher who ships one piece. She set a 12-minute timer, distraction budget of 1 glance. On days when her brain insisted on quitting, she lowered the micro-commit to 90 seconds. 90 seconds led to 4 minutes, then 6, like stepping stones across a creek. Some afternoons she fell in. She returned anyway. The body learned something hope cannot teach. Repetition is a kind of love. Feel the cool on the back of your throat with the next inhale. Let the out-breath be longer than is socially polite. Place your palm flat on the surface near you and notice the texture, matte, slick, grainy. Say out loud the smallest next action of the task you've been avoiding. Then do a comically tiny piece of it. Stop on time. Stopping on time builds trust with your future self, who won't hide from work that doesn't turn into a hostage situation. Because spirals often argue that starting small is cheating, build the win ledger. At the end of each day, record 3 inches you moved. Open the doc and wrote an ugly line. Stood and did 5 squats. Sent the uncomfortable question. This isn't about applause. It's about training your RAs to notice proof you're a person who begins. The more evidence you store, the less your critic can claim you never do. You might ask, what if the task is enormous and interdependent? What if my inch doesn't matter? In complex systems, visibility is leverage. An inch that exposes uncertainty early is worth an hour of perfect isolation. Send the rough draft. Ask the clarifying question. Post the status. The activation cascade isn't a private habit, it's a public service. It prevents late-stage panic and the kind of spirals that turn corridors into rumor mills. On a late train, the air metallic and cool, Ria stared at a grant application that felt like a mountain range. She ran cascade friction at seat scale. Preload, laptop open to the specific section title. Prime, you are the advocate who tells one true story. Micro-commit, 30 seconds to write 1 sentence about impact. Roll, add the simplest metric she could verify. Friction, she put her phone in the bag's outer pocket and closed the zipper. The car rocked. A child laughed 3 seats down. 2 sentences became 6. When the train pulled in, she closed the lid with a small exhale and felt taller by a centimeter. That centimeter is what mountains are built from in reverse. There's an identity layer here that will make or break these tools. If you think of yourself as someone who needs lightning to strike to start, you'll wait for thunder. If you choose instead to be the person who causes weather, who sets a timer, places 5 objects, names a line, you will move in drizzle, in fog, in partial sun. That's the kind of person who doesn't spiral when conditions aren't perfect, because they stopped requiring perfect conditions. Right now, build a 60-second start for the thing closest to your day. Put the first tool under your hand. Whisper your prime name. Set a 2 to 5 minute container. Touch 5 objects. Breathe once. Begin. If you fall off, you don't perform a trial. You return. That returning is who you are becoming. A last vignette to install the feeling. It's 7:02 a.m. The window glass is cold under your fingertips. Outside, the city hasn't fully remembered itself. Inside, the kettle starts to mutter. You've promised yourself 10 minutes on the chapter, the spreadsheet, the email that unlocks another human being's day. You preload, doc open, cursor waiting. You prime, you are the person who starts. You micro-commit, 30 seconds, ridiculous and reachable. You roll 1 sentence, then a second. The kettle clicks off like a tiny applause. Your mind reaches for a spiral about whether it's any good. You smile at the puppy on the leash. Not now, now we finish the minute. Your chest loosens by a hair. The room feels kinder because you are being kind to your future. You are the awareness, not the emotion. You are the awareness, not the inertia. Begin small again and again until small becomes the natural size of starting, and starting becomes who you are. When the timer ends, stop and feel the weight of your body in the chair, the sound of a car or a bird or a neighbor. Note one visible change you made, a line on a page, an item moved, a question sent. That's your lever. Pull it again later. Pull it tomorrow. That's how a life unclenches, not with a single heroic heave, but with 1,000 quiet starts. Some spirals bloom not before action, but after it, when the dust settles and your mind runs a forensic lab on every word you said, every pause you took, every eyebrow you think lifted. This is the aftershock spiral. You already moved. The threat is gone, but your nervous system is still vibrating, and your inner editor is auditioning for a prosecutor role it was never trained for. In this chapter, you'll learn to close the loop cleanly so momentum survives contact with imperfection. Two frameworks will do the heavy lifting. The first is the Aftershock Protocol, a 3-beat rhythm, acknowledge, adjust, advance, that metabolizes missteps without feeding the critic. The second is the Future You handshake, a simple pact between present and future selves that turns vague intentions into repeatable architecture. We'll weld both to a micro drill called the if, then bridge so the next time your history wants to spiral, your plan arrives faster than your panic. Begin in your body, the only place spirals actually happen. Notice the residue of an old conversation or a recent meeting, the faint heat behind your cheeks, the micro-tightness across the chest, the way your breath perches high like a bird reluctant to land. The room is ordinary, the chair steady under you, a patch of light on the floor, the familiar scent of coffee or soap or paper. Label the weather, latent buzz, shallow breath, mind replaying scene 4. Inhale for 4, hold for 2, exhale for 6. Let the exhale make a sound in your throat, a quiet ocean. That sound is a message to your vagus nerve. It's over, we can file this. You're not trying to erase memory, you're teaching your nervous system what to do with it. The Aftershock Protocol starts with acknowledge, not the theatrical confession the critic craves, just a clean sentence that separates signal from shame. I interrupted twice. I missed the second data point. I spoke too fast. Then adjust. One precise change you'll run next time, small enough to be executable under pressure. Count 3 beats before jumping in. Put both data points on one card. Lead with the outcome sentence. Then advance. A physical action that moves you forward now. Send the clarifying email. Block 5 minutes to revise the slide. Schedule a short debrief. Acknowledge settles the anterior, singulates conflict alarm. Adjust gives your prefrontal cortex a lever. Advance provides the dopamine drip that says, lesson integrated, life continues. You're not on trial, you're in training. A brief story to ground this in carpet and light. Rena left a client call feeling like her mouth had been a runaway train. Outside, the winter air strung her cheeks. The coffee shop doorbell chimed as someone entered behind her. The movie in her head shouted, "You talked over Sam, you always do." She felt the press in her sternum. The Aftershock Protocol was a life raft within arm's reach. Acknowledge, I cut Sam off twice during the Q&A. Adjust. Next call, I'll write pause, then ask on a sticky note and keep it in my line of sight. Advance. She opened her phone and typed, Sam, thanks for your points, appreciated your note on risk. I realized I spoke fast. Next call, I'll pause to bring you in. Anything you want me to clarify before Friday? She hit send. The buzz in her chest dropped from a roar to a hum. 2 hours later, Sam replied with a thumbs up and one suggestion. No courtroom, just work. Pause a second and feel where your clothes touch your skin, the seams on your shoulders, the band at your wrist. Hear a far sound and a near one. This widening and narrowing of attention is not a detour. It's the mechanism that lets you reassign resources from alarm to learning. Your reticular activating system will search for whatever you tag as relevant. Tag what to do next, not why I am terrible. Aftershock spirals lose oxygen when relevance changes. Sometimes the aftershock is not about what you did, but about what you didn't finish. That's where the future you handshake lives. Your brain has multiple time selves. The one in the morning has optimism. The one at 4 p.m. has fatigue. The one at 10 p.m. has a flashlight for monsters. A handshake prevents them from betraying each other. It has 3 clauses: cue, constraint, and kindness. Cue is the exact trigger future you will encounter when you open the laptop, when your hand touches the fridge, when you see the bed. Constraint is the non-negotiable boundary that protects the behavior: no inbox before the first sentence, only water before coffee, phone in the kitchen at night. Kindness is the immediate reward or relief that makes the constraint worth respecting: warm light and music with the first paragraph, 10 slow sips looking out a window, book on the pillow. EQ makes it automatic. Constraint makes it real. Kindness makes it sustainable. An evening vignette. Amir would finish work and drift into doom scrolling that dissolved the edges of his evening. The next morning he'd wake with a hangover of regret and the critic would get loud. The handshake changed the physics. Cue, when the door closes behind me at 6:10. Constraint, keys in bowl, phone on charger, shoes off, then 10-minute walk before any screen. Kindness, playlist ready, city air on face, sunlight, even streetlight on retinas. Day 1, his legs felt heavy, the cold bit the skin at his wrists. Day 3, his body walked before his brain negotiated. Day 10, the critic had fewer exhibits to present, not because perfection arrived, but because a pact was honored. Future, you is easier to love when present, you keeps promises. Right now, make a one-line handshake for a pain point. Whisper it. When I finish lunch, I put the plate in the sink and open the dock for 60 seconds, then play one song I love. Or when I enter the bedroom, the phone stays outside and I open the book that already lies face up. Let your mouth feel the words. Place your hand on the nearest surface and feel its texture: a cool rim, a slightly rough grain, a smooth plastic edge. That tactile note tells your body this is not philosophy, it's a move. A short science bridge to invite your skeptic to the table. After a stressor, the amygdala's alarm decays, but if you keep supplying mentally vivid replays, you refire the circuit and keep cortisol trickling. Acknowledge without rumination interrupts that refiring. Precise adjustments recruit dorsolateral prefrontal networks that prefer verbs over verdicts. Advancing creates a prediction of completion, which dopaminergically biases your system toward the next step instead of the previous mistake. Meanwhile, cue, constraint, kindness hijacks habit machinery, cues trigger loops, constraints limit branch complexity, kindness tags the loop as safe, which your basal ganglia memorize. This is not positive thinking, it's wiring. Some aftershocks are social. You leave a dinner certain you sounded weird. You leave a one-on-one sure your manager decoded your pause as incompetence. In those moments, combine the Aftershock Protocol with the fact-fiction filter you learned earlier. Acknowledge the facts. I paused twice. I said sorry when I meant thank you. Adjust one behavior. Swap sorry for the delay with thanks for your patience. Advance with a single sentence sent now, following up on X, confirming Y by Thursday. The combination breaks a favorite spiral law that you must feel absolved before you move. You move, and the feeling follows, like a shadow stepping into alignment when the light shifts. A corridor scene to make this tangible. Tomas walked back to his desk after presenting a draft to a cross-functional team. He felt his mouth dry, heard his voice wobble on the second slide. By the elevators, the building's air smelled faintly of metal and dust. His palms were just a little damp. The old loop revved, "You never sound sure." He pressed his fingers to the cool of the elevator frame for one breath and ran acknowledge. Voice wobbled on slide 2. Answer to procurement was vague. Adjust, put the procurement line and one metric on an index card, add a single sentence path. If A, then B, advance. He sat at his desk, wrote those 2 lines and messaged the PM, adding one sentence on procurement to slide 2. Does if A then B match your read? The PM replied with a quick perfect. The wobble didn't define the day. The repair did. Now the micro drill that helps your next move arrive on rails when panic is loud. The if, then bridge. It's a simple conditional that you install in advance, and again right after an aftershock, so you don't have to invent behavior from scratch in a noisy brain. If my mind replays the moment, then I run 3 slow breaths and write one improvement sentence. If I see a new message bubble while working, then I finish the current sentence before I look. If I hear we need to talk, then I ask for a time and write 2 questions. If then scripts reduce decision friction, which is what spirals exploit. They also give your anterior cingulate a sense of resolved conflict. Fork decided, path chosen. Feel your breath again, the cool coming in, the warmer breath leaving. Name one if, then out loud now. If the critic says always, then I replace it with this time and ask, what's the smallest fix? Listen to the tone of your own voice. It matters. Warm tone tells your midbrain there's a grown-up in the room. There's a relationship to time hiding underneath aftershocks. Overthinkers tend to hold a ledger, past missteps compounding interest, future failures pre-booked. The present gets crowded out. To recenter, install the 3-box review twice a week. Past learn, present focus, future prepare. 3 sentences total. Past learn, 1 line written like a lab note, not a moral. Cut off Sam twice. Sticky note, prompt next time. Present focus, 1 line naming the hinge of the next 48 hours. Finish, draft, and send by Wednesday noon. Future prepare, 1 line for a foreseeable bump. Write 2 polite boundary phrases for Thursday's meeting. The boxes are mental Tupperware. They keep flavors from bleeding together. A domestic vignette at 9:30 p.m. will make this more human. Lights low, the room smelling faintly of laundry and something sweet cooling in the kitchen. Eli lay in bed replaying a joke that landed weirdly at lunch. His chest tightened, heat crawled up his neck. He almost reached for the phone to text a preemptive apology. Instead, he ran the Aftershock Protocol without even sitting up. Acknowledge, joke was off in one ear. Adjust, ask, did that land weird? In the moment next time, favor questions over quips when tone is mixed. Advance, he typed a 3-line note for morning, not midnight. Hey, if that joke landed wrong, thanks for the grace. Next time I'll ask, appreciate you. He put the phone face down, breathed 446 twice, and watched the ceiling soften from sharp to gently out of focus. Sleep is easier when you're not trying to litigate the day in the dark. Sensory check, notice the temperature at the tip of your nose. It's usually slightly cooler than your cheeks. Notice the sound you'd normally miss, a faint plumbing knock, a fan, distant traffic. These micro-anchors are not aesthetic, they're pragmatic. They widen the window through which your prefrontal cortex can climb back in. Let's weld identity into these tools so they stick. Say this softly, you are the awareness, not the emotion. Extend it, you are the awareness, not the aftershock. Mistakes can ring the bell, but they don't get to hold the bell rope all afternoon. You are the one who rings it once, listens, and then turns to the work of making things better by an inch. If your aftershocks come with shame flashbacks, pair the Aftershock Protocol with T3 from the last chapter. Catch the old echo, connect to the earlier scene, contrast the differences, correct the present truth, choose the inch, then acknowledge, adjust, advance inside the present container. This double braid tells your hippocampus, the past happened, the present has different tools, and here's exactly what we do now. Here's a field story from athletics, because bodies tell the truth. Yi, a sprinter, false started once in a meet, and the memory tattooed itself on their nervous system. Months later, during practice, any twitch at the blocks sent a spike of heat up the spine. Aftershock spirals made sleep brittle. The coach installed an if, then bridge and the handshake. If any twitch triggers the memory, then 446 twice and say reset. Eyes to horizon for 2 seconds. Handshake for meets. Cue, when I lace my spikes. Constraint, no replay talk after the first warm-up run. Kindness, a 30-second sun-on-skin pause by the fence. After a week, the spikes still felt like electricity, but the electricity had a ground wire. Yi didn't become fearless. They became interruptible. Interruptible is enough to run. You'll encounter edge cases where an aftershock tries to recruit you into overcorrection, turning one missed detail into a 2-hour overhaul that derails real priorities. Guard against that with the 2% rule. Your adjust must cost less than 2% of the project's time. If it exceeds that, it moves to next in cognitive triage. This is not stinginess, it's strategy. The anterior cingulate hates unresolved errors. The 2% rule resolves them with proportion. A workplace scene with fluorescent light and the smell of dry erase markers. Kim sent a report with a misaligned chart axis that made 2 bars look misleadingly similar. Aftershock spike. The impulse was to rebuild the whole dashboard. Acknowledge, axis label off by unit. Adjust, add axis check to pre-send list. Advance, send corrected chart plus 1 sentence note. Corrected axis below, thanks for catching. In the 2% rule, prevented a dramatic rewrite that would have fed the spiral's hunger for punishment disguised as diligence. Diligence is precise, punishment is endless. Feel your feet. If you're seated, notice the pressure on the balls of your feet or the heels. If you're standing, notice how your weight distributes. Let your exhale lengthen by a count. Say out loud, enough for today, even if the critic rolls its eyes. Enough for today is not surrender, it's the oxygen mask that keeps tomorrow alive. Sometimes aftershocks come from wins too. Success can unearth a new spiral, the heady dread that you'll be exposed as a fluke. Run the Aftershock Protocol on wins, it keeps growth clean. Acknowledge, the pitch landed. Adjust, capture the structure that worked, problem, outcome, choice. Advance, template it for Friday. The brain remembers triumphs poorly without deliberate encoding. Encode them with verbs. Your future self needs recipes, not just fireworks. A cafe vignette with the smell of espresso and warm milk. Sorhya nailed a demo. The applause, small and sincere, made her heart lift, and then the mind whispered, "You got lucky." She smiled at the foam on her latte and did the quiet work. Acknowledge, demo flowed, questions handled. Adjust, record the opening 2 sentences and the question pivot. Practice once Thursday. Advance. She opened voice memos, recorded the lines, and added a calendar note. The win didn't evaporate into imposter fog. It condensed into method. Wrap the handshake around hard edges of your day. Morning start, post-lunch dip, evening shutdown. Morning, when I open the laptop, inbox stays closed until the first sentence exists. Then I cue a song I like. Post-lunch, When I return to my desk, I run one ASR distraction budget 1 10-minute block. Evening, when the lamp clicks off, phone sleeps in the kitchen, kindness is lamp glow in the bedroom, and 3 pages of a novel. These are not rules to impress anyone. They are handrails for a brain that prefers rails when tired. A final story to stitch this into an ordinary Tuesday. Nell, creative director, left a tense review where a junior burst into tears. The corridor smelled like carpet cleaner, the air tasted recycled. Nell's chest tightened, the spiral offered 2 scripts, defend or disappear. Aftershock Protocol, acknowledge, my feedback landed hard. Adjust, next reviews, ask what's your aim here, before offering critique. Keep to 2 notes, then ask, what would help? Advance, she wrote a brief message. I care about your growth, I came in hot. Can we reset at 4 p.m.? I'll start by asking your aim. At 4 they sat with mugs warming their hands. The junior said, I was already on edge. They designed a shared review template. Walking back to her office, Nell noticed the cool of the doorknob and the small relief of a closed loop. The mind tried to reopen the movie. She whispered, enough for today, and returned to the next inch. As you close this chapter, do an ultra-brief field drill. Bring to mind the last thing your brain wants to replay. Label the weather. Acknowledge one fact without adjectives. Adjust one behavior at the right scale. Advance one tiny action before you stand up. Then write one if, then bridge for the next time this category visits. Finally, seal a future. You handshake for tonight or tomorrow morning. Cue, constraint, kindness. Make it real enough you can bump into it. Feel the air in your throat again, cooler in, warmer out. Let your jaw soften by a millimeter. Hear the nearest sound. Whisper the identity truth that keeps you from tying your worth to any single scene. You are the awareness, not the emotion. And extend it now that you have a way to live it. You are the awareness, not the aftershock. You ring the bell once. You listen, you adjust, you advance, then you walk on. Some spirals masquerade as I don't know what to do. You pace through options until they blur, zoom in on worst case until your ribs forget how to widen, ask 5 people and feel more crowded than before. Uncertainty is not the enemy, drowning in undecidedness is. In this chapter you'll build a way to choose without feeding the loop. 2 frameworks will carry you. The first is the North Star Audit, which translates your values out of posters and into verbs that steer real decisions. The second is the Doorway Matrix, a fast map for sorting choices by reversibility and consequence, so you stop treating every fork like a life sentence. We'll fuse both with a micro drill called Value to Verb that turns meaning into a behavior you can do before your next cup cools. Start with the sensation of indecision in the body. Your stomach feels fizzy, your lungs sip air like a straw at the bottom of a glass, your eyes slide off the page. The room hasn't changed, same chair, same light pooling on the desk, a faint citrus note from the soap you used, but your chest tightens as if the future itself were narrowing your breath. Name the weather, jitter under the skin, tunnel vision, mind projecting 10 endings. Inhale for 4, hold for 2, exhale for 6. Let your exhale brush the back of your throat like a small wave. You're not trying to predict perfectly. You're trying to choose wisely enough to learn. The North Star Audit has 3 moves: name, narrow, and note. Name means you pick 3 values that actually govern your best days, not the glamorous ones you think should. You test them against lived moments. When did you feel proud, relieved, steady? Maybe your set is truth, craft, and care, or courage, clarity, and health. Narrow means you choose one guiding sentence per value that starts with a verb, not a noun. Truth becomes, say the clean thing kindly. Craft becomes, ship small, refine often. Health becomes, protect sleep before opinions. Note means you create a visible checklist that asks, before you choose, does this option let me say the clean thing kindly? Does it let me ship small and refine? Does it protect sleep? Values stop being clouds and start being rails. A story to ground this in carpet and clock ticks. Sophia had 2 job offers. One paid more but bragged about weekend sprints. The other paid less and promised autonomy with sane hours. Her head did spreadsheets, her chest stayed tight. She sat at her kitchen table, felt the cool of the wood under her forearms, heard the kettle begin its quiet pre-whistle. North Star Audit. Name, she wrote Clarity, Craft, Care. Narrow. Clarity equals say the clean thing kindly. Craft equals ship small, refine often. Care equals protect sleep before opinions. Note, she drew 3 boxes and put each sentence beside them. Offer a failed care on its face and made craft sound like juggling in a wind tunnel. Offer be checked clarity. Leaders asked direct questions and honored craft with real iteration. Her chest loosened by a centimeter. She chose B a year later. Salary had caught up because her work got better when her nervous system wasn't a bonfire. Meaning made money the long way around. Feel your own body now. Notice the temperature difference between the skin on your wrists and the air. Hear the softest sound you can detect, the fridge's almost silent click, a car passing, the sigh of a vent. Write 3 words that name your real values. Don't perform, tell the truth your bones already know. Then write 1 sentence per value that starts with a verb. If the pen resists, that's good. Verbs cost honesty. Post the sentences where your eyes will trip over them. Our choices. Overthinkers treat every door like a vault door that seals behind you with a hiss. Most doors are ordinary. The doorway matrix helps your amygdala stop selling drama. It has 4 squares built from 2 questions. 1. Is this choice reversible, a 2-way door, or hard to reverse, a 1-way door? 2. Is the consequence high or low? You say the quadrant out loud. 2-way low, experiment now. 2-way high, prototype a small version. 1-way low, decide quickly with values in hand. 1-way high, slow down, gather 2 more facts, and choose with ceremony. The point isn't to be right, it's to be proportionate. Proportion starves spirals. A fluorescent conference room vignette. Dion's team argued for days about a landing page color, as if the shade of blue were a treaty. He ran the doorway matrix on a whiteboard, pen squeaking. 2-way low, he said, tapping the color swatches. We can A/B test and roll back in an hour. The room exhaled. You could hear the HVAC again. They chose a test, kept their week, and saved their cortisol for problems that deserved it. Weeks later, a tricky contract clause came up, 1-way high. They slowed, asked 2 clean questions, slept on it, and walked away with respect intact. The matrix became a ritual phrase. Which doorway is this? Rituals interrupt panic with pattern. We fuse both frameworks with the value-to-verb microdrill. When you feel the indecision buzz, you speak 1 value sentence and do a matching behavior in the next 90 seconds. Truth, send 1 clean question. What outcome by when? Craft, open the doc and ship a paragraph ugly and honest. Care, fill a glass of water and schedule the hard stop for sleep. This sounds quaint until you notice what it does to chemistry. Behavior begets belief. Your reticular activating system starts filtering for moves that fit your verbs. Choices stop feeling like riddles. They feel like roads you already know how to walk. A relationship scene, because choices don't stay at work. Eli had been stewing about whether to raise a boundary with his brother who borrowed things and returned them eventually. His chest felt hot. His jaw crept forward. The old story wrote itself. If I speak up, I'm selfish. North Star Audit. Care equals protect honesty and rest. Clarity equals say the clean thing kindly. Courage equals ask for the repair I want. Doorway matrix, 2-way low. The relationship wouldn't implode from a request. reversible if tone went wrong. Value to verb, he texted, "Love you, I need a system so I'm not hunting for my tools. Can you return the drill Friday and going forward borrow with a return date?" He put his phone down on the cool counter and felt the tiny shock of electricity in his fingertips settle. Friday, the drill came back with a thank you. The door stayed two-way because he asked like a person who trusts both of them. Check your senses again. Notice the slight warmth where your palms meet your thighs. Let your eyes soften and widen so you can see the edges of the room, then gently narrow back to this word. That shift is you practicing big, small attention necessary for decisions that have both detail and direction. Not every choice offers joy at first glance. That's where the regret-resilient view helps without turning the chapter into a courtroom. Imagine two future you 6 months ahead. One chose A, one chose B, which self-respects their own reasons more, even if the outcome is mixed. Respect is a better compass than imagined applause. Pair this with the doorway matrix. If the door is one-way high, ask your respect test and gather 2 more facts. If it's two-way low, act and let reality teach. Let me take you into a small office that smelled like dry erase and black coffee. Priyanka was deciding whether to push back on an unrealistic timeline suggested by a VP who spoke in absolutes. Her stomach pressed hard against her belt line. North Star Audit said clarity and care. Doorway Matrix said two-way high for her stress, but two-way low for the relationship if she asked well. Regret-resilient view said she would respect the self who named reality more than the one who smiled and drowned. She wrote one sentence: "To hit quality, we can deliver X by Friday or Y by Wednesday. Which outcome matters more?" She breathed 446 once, felt the cool of air on her soft palate and sent it. The reply took 15 minutes. "Do Y by Wednesday." 2 hours later another message came. "Actually, do X by Friday, better." Clarity had given the room something honest to choose. Science bridge, brief and usable. Decision paralysis is often working memory overload plus threat chemistry. Values framed as verbs reduce options. By encoding criteria, your prefrontal cortex can compute quickly. Reversibility judgments calm the amygdala because "I can change my mind" is safety. Acting on a value sentence delivers a small dopamine hit, teaching your system that meaning yields momentum. You are not chasing certainty. You're building a machine that converts meaning into action with minimal friction. A student story. Leela had 3 majors on the wall and a mother with strong opinions. Her room smelled like pencil shavings and detergent. Her chest got tight every time she opened the course catalog. North Star Audit, curiosity, service, stability. Verbs, follow questions deeper, make other people's days easier, build a scaffolding I can count on. Doorway Matrix, one-way high, no, two-way high-ish. She could change majors later, but better to test cheaply now. Value to verb. She emailed 2 professors with 1 question each, scheduled a shadow session at the campus clinic, and blocked a 2-hour window to sit with an actual dataset. Her chest didn't explode into joy. It loosened like a knot starting to give. 2 weeks of verbs later, the fog thinned. Questions lit her up. Clinic shifts grounded her, and spreadsheets didn't repel her, major chosen. The deciding had felt less like magic and more like building a small pier and walking out until the water told the truth. She kept the matrix taped above her desk for the next fork. Feel your jaw, let it drop the width of a seed. Notice the cool on the back of your throat as you inhale and the warmer slip of air as you exhale. Hear the faintest sound in your space, the hum of a vent, the traffic far off, the ticking of some patient clock. Decisions don't only bow to thought, they bow to chemistry. When you widen sensation, you're telling your midbrain it has time. Time reopens options. Options weaken spirals. Your job is not to conjure certainty. It's to keep enough oxygen in your system that your better sentences can find their way out. There's a sneaky spiral that hides inside values, the performer's trap. You choose what looks aligned on paper but doesn't fit your season. Values are stable, seasons are not. That's why the North Star Audit includes the note step as an actual checklist, not a tattoo. Revisit it each month and let verbs flex. Clarity might still be say the clean thing kindly, but in a sprint season it becomes ask for outcomes and stop at 2. Care might usually be protect 8 hours, but with a newborn it becomes protect 1 90-minute nap and befriend imperfection. When values become verbs, they adapt to weather. When they stay nouns, they turn into statues that mock you for being human. A candid scene on a couch that smelled faintly of detergent and last night's popcorn. Andre, a freelancer, was deciding whether to accept a lucrative contract from a client he didn't quite trust. The old loop spun. If you say no, you'll starve. If you say yes, you'll hate yourself. He pressed his thumb into the seam of the cushion and felt the fabric give. North Star, integrity equals keep promises I can keep. Craft equals ship something I'm proud of. Health equals keep weekends for recovery. Doorway matrix, one-way high in terms of stress, two-way medium for money. He could leave, but penalties and reputation would sting. Regret resilient view, future, Andre would respect the self who designed a contract he could honor more than the one who said yes and then ghosted. Value to verb, he wrote, happy to accept with these conditions, scope frozen for 2-week sprints, weekly review, no weekend pings. He sent it with a long exhale that felt like wind leaving a sail. The client declined and called back 3 weeks later with adjusted terms. The money arrived second, the self-respect arrived first. When a choice involves other people, your amygdala loves to sell you melodrama. If I ask for clarity, they'll think I'm difficult. If I set a boundary, they'll leave. Pair the doorway matrix with the boundary beacon from earlier. Ask which door you're actually at. Two-way low with a person you trust. Call. Two-way high with a volatile person. Write one clean sentence and ask for their preferred next step. Before you hit send, breathe 4-4-6 once and soften your eyes as if the other person were in the room. Prosody is a carrier wave. Your tone often makes the choice feel less like a verdict and more like a path you can walk together. Let's weld this into a daily ritual you can run in under 3 minutes. The North Star Huddle. Sit or stand, feel your feet. Whisper your 3 value verbs. Name 1 decision you're avoiding. Ask the 2 matrix questions out loud. Reversible or hard to reverse. High or low consequence. Pick the quadrant. Do 1 value to verb move that fits the quadrant's instruction. If you hit a one-way high door, write 2 facts you need and 1 person who has them, then calendar the ask. If you hit a 2-way low door, act in the next 90 seconds. The huddle is a chemistry hack disguised as a method. The act of labeling, combined with a small behavior, shifts you from limbic swirl to executive function. That's not philosophy, that's blood flow. A workplace snapshot to see it in motion. Hygien's team debated whether to rename a feature that customers misunderstood. The room felt electric, the dry erase marker squeaked, a laptop fan whirred like it wanted attention. Old pattern, talk until the hour dies and call it collaboration. New pattern, North Star Huddle. Value verbs, clarity, name the outcome. Craft equals test before the world sees. Care equals protect focus. Matrix, reversible, yes with a deploy consequence. Low medium, decision, 2-way low. Value to verb. Ship a 2-day A/B test to a subset of users and watch signups. The spiral that feeds on opinions had to sit down because reality entered the room. Check your body again. Spread your toes inside your shoes as if you were widening your contact with the floor by a hair. Feel the chair receiving your weight, not as a metaphor but as physics. Let your next exhale be an inch longer than habit. These micro moves aren't fluff. They reclaim bandwidth. You can make better choices with 10% more bandwidth than with 10% better arguments. Sometimes you won't like any option. That's when the design a door move saves you. If all doors are one-way high and all violate a value, build a small, time-bound experiment that creates a new path. Can you propose a pilot period, a role split, a delayed start? Values aren't just filters, they're generators. Ship small, refine often, translates into propose a 2-week microscope. Say the clean thing kindly becomes ask if we can try X and reconvene. The doorway matrix doesn't trap you in a grid. It gives you a table to draw on. A relationship vignette in a kitchen saturated with the smell of tomato and basil. Rivera and Tash were stuck between moving to a cheaper neighborhood with a longer commute or staying and cutting expenses to the bone. Both options scraped old values. They stood barefoot, tile cool under their feet, and ran the huddle. Values. Connection equals eat together without rush. Health equals sleep enough to be kind. Craft, keep creative time alive. Matrix check. One-way high for at least a year either way. Design a door. They tested a reverse commute month by swapping schedules, tracked sleep, dinner length, and creative time. Value to verb behaviors. 10-minute shared breakfast, lights out by 11, a protected creative hour 3 mornings a week. The month taught them what arguments couldn't. Cheap rent with no dinner left them brittle. Staying with small lifestyle cuts kept the home warm in more ways than temperature. They chose to stay and renegotiated 2 bills. Decision by verb, not vibe. The mind will try to outsource decisions to the crowd. Ask 5 people, ask the internet, ask the horoscope. Input is useful, outsourcing is a trap. Use the 3-voice council instead, coach, scientist, friend, the seats you met earlier. Give each 1 sentence, then bring the North Star and the Matrix back. Coach, name the next small move. Scientist, propose an experiment and a measure. Friend, protect your dignity during the test. Then act. Your identity is the person who asks everyone. It becomes the person who seeks counsel and then chooses with a spine. A short science bridge so your skeptic keeps walking with us. Ambiguity inflates perceived risk. Your amygdala overestimates danger when outcomes are fuzzy. Categorization reduces state anxiety. Placing a decision in a quadrant is a categorization act. Values as verbs activate left prefrontal language areas that help regulate emotion and increase perceived control. Small actions produce prediction error if your forecast was, I can't decide, teaching the system it can. Over time, decisions become less of a stage and more of a hallway, rooms on either side you can step into and back out of. There's an edge case, team decisions where your values collide with group norms. You can still navigate without spiraling. First, speak the value as a verb, not a slogan. To keep craft high, I need 1 day to test before we ship. Then place the door. This feels 2-way low. Can we run a 24-hour pilot? Or if it's 1-way high, ask for ceremony. If we're signing a 1-way high door, can we state the 2 extra facts we need and sleep on it? You don't confuse volume with conviction. A quiet, precise sentence often moves the room more than a spirited monologue. Your body will tell you if you just performed or if you honored a direction. Trust that check. Another domestic snapshot, because life insists on mixing categories. Santi stood in a tiny hardware store that smelled like rubber and pine, choosing paint colors for a bedroom, North Sea or quiet moss. His chest tightened like this was a treaty. He laughed at himself softly in the aisle, exhaled longer than his dignity thought appropriate, and ran the doorway matrix. Two-way low. Value to verb, care equals protect sleep. So he bought sample pots, painted 2 rectangles, and lived with them for 2 nights. The morning light made the choice obvious. Decision became a breakfast conversation, not a manifesto. Widen your attention, then narrow. Hear a sound far away, maybe a car door, a bird, a pipe in the wall. Hear a sound close, your own breath, the whisper of fabric when you shift. Feel the temperature gradient between your wrist and the air. These micro-checks are you practicing big picture, little picture alternation, the same neural dance decisions need. When your mind says, this is everything, your body gets to say, this is one door. If you feel stuck between 2 good options, use the 48-hour tilt. Choose one path on purpose for 2 days, live as if it were decided, speak to yourself and others as if. Do a value-to-verb move that would only be true in that world. Notice your body. Do you feel open or closed? Do you lean or leave? Then live the other option for 2 days. Don't poll the crowd, poll your nervous system and your day. The tilt isn't a trap. It's a simulation that gives you felt data. Pair the result with your North Star and the matrix. Often the answer isn't which is right, but which is right for this season. A closing story for this chapter in a co-working space that smelled like espresso, greenery, and a hint of warm plastic from computers. Mal had a chance to join a friend's startup as employee number 4. His heart flared, his stomach tightened, his head did math that kept changing. North Star, craft equals build with care, courage equals take real bets, care equals stay married to my partner, not to my inbox. Doorway matrix, 1-way high for a year emotionally, 2-way high financially. He ran the 48-hour tilt, 2 days in yes. He wrote an onboarding plan and ate dinner at 9:30 p.m. with a racing brain. 2 days in no. He lined up a contract, shipped 2 client pieces before 6, and slept like a stone. Respect test said he'd respect the self who bet on his craft with 2 anchor clients and kept evenings for life. He said no kindly, left a door for advising, and watched his friend thrive. Later, when his season changed, he joined a different build. Decisions have seasons. You're allowed to catch the next tide. Right now, do your own 90-second run. Whisper your 3 value verbs. Name the decision you're avoiding. Place it, 2-way or 1-way, high or low. If 2-way low, do 1 act now, a question, a tiny experiment. If 1-way high, write the 2 facts you need and the 1 person who has them. Schedule the ask. If you're between 2 goods, tilt for 48 hours and take notes like a scientist. Through it all, keep the identity line close, not as poetry, but as a steering wheel you can feel in your hands. You are the awareness, not the emotion. Extend it for this chapter. You are the awareness, not the swirl of options. Options are weather. You are the sky they pass through. You pick a star. You walk toward it 1 verb at a time. Breathe once more. Feel the chair hold more of your weight than it did a minute ago. Notice 1 small object in your field of view you ignored, the chip in the mug, the nick on the desk, the curl of paper at the edge of a notebook. Decisions are like that, ordinary, textured, not sacred. When your mind tries to light candles around them, smile and set 1 small piece in motion. The doorway will tell you what to do next the moment you step through. There's a quiet kind of spiral that doesn't sound like panic. It sounds like doubt. You do the right things for 3 days, then your brain whispers, this won't last, and your hand drifts toward the old pattern as if pulled by a tide you can't see. Doubt is a spiral with good grammar. It cites your history. It tells you that because you've slipped before, you'll slip again, so why strain now? In this chapter, you'll build something that silences doubt without a fight, self-trust. Not a feeling, a system. 2 frameworks will be your scaffolding. The first is the self-trust engine, promise, protect, prove, a loop that turns small commitments into identity. The second is identity casting, role, rule, ritual, a way to choose who you're being on purpose and back it with actions a tired brain can execute. We'll fuse them with a micro drill called 2-token promises, so you can deliver when your energy is low and your excuses are eloquent. Begin in your body. Doubt lands softer than fear but tighter than ease. Notice where it sits, maybe a subtle weight under the sternum, a swallowed heat at the back of the throat, a thinness to your breath like you're sipping air through a straw. The room is ordinary. A cup rings faintly when you set it down, a patch of light warms the desk, fabric grazes your forearm where your sleeve ends. Label the weather, low-grade hesitation, shoulders inching up, mind rehearsing failure as if it were responsible. Inhale 4, hold 2, exhale 6. Let the out-breath be a shade longer than comfort. You're not trying to believe in yourself. You're about to act in a way that gives your belief something to stand on. The self-trust engine has 3 gears: promise, protect, prove. Promise means you make a commitment so specific a camera could verify it, and so small your tired self won't revolt. At 7:40, write 2 awkward sentences in the deck. At lunch, walk to the end of the block and back. At 10:30, text 1 clean boundary. Protect means you engineer the minute around the promise so friction works for you. Phone in another room, dock open to the exact spot, shoes by the door pointing outward. Prove means you do the thing and then mark it in ink on a tally with a note to future you because your brain counts what it can see. Promise makes intention. Protect makes likelihood. Prove makes identity. Self-trust is not thinking I can. It's remembering I did. A hallway scene to ground this. Talia had earned a reputation for brilliant starts and mysterious disappearances. Her chest tightened every time she opened a draft after a few days away. Doubt said, "They know you won't finish." She built a self-trust engine at the scale of minutes. Promise, 8:05, write 50 ugly words. Protect, she left the dock full screen, a sticky note on the monitor, 50 ugly. She placed her phone in the kitchen beside the kettle. Prove, when done, she drew 1 small slash on a card pinned beside the screen. Day 1, the slash felt juvenile and strangely satisfying. Day 3, the card carried 3 marks like little doorways she had walked through. Day 12, she noticed something shocking. The draft wasn't only alive, her chest felt looser when she sat. Identity was catching up to behavior. She was someone who hopes. She was someone who keeps small promises. Pause and feel the cool on the rim of your nostrils, the warm slip of air out. Hear the farthest sound and the nearest one. Let them both exist without choosing. That alternation, wide and narrow, lets your nervous system drop the background alarm that makes doubt persuasive. Your reticular activating system will begin to search for proof that matches your tag. Tag promises kept. Identity casting is how you choose who acts while you're still waking up or winding down. It has 3 moves: role, rule, ritual. Role is a specific hat you wear for a slice of time: editor, builder, teammate, partner, runner. Rule is 1 sentence that role obeys even when you're moody. Editor cuts 5 words per sentence. Builder ships 1 imperfect unit. Teammate asks 1 clarifying question before offering a fix. Partner says the clean thing kindly by 9 p.m., not at midnight. Ritual is the 5 to 15-second action that turns the light on in that room. Tap the desk twice, stand and roll your shoulders, read your rule aloud, touch a texture tied to the role. Role gives direction. Rule gives constraint. Ritual gives ignition. In a fluorescent conference room that smelled faintly of whiteboard cleaner, Omar used identity casting to transform a meeting that usually left him spiraling. His role, coach for 20 minutes. His rule, ask one outcome question before any suggestion. His ritual, touch the edge of his notebook and breathe 4-4-6 once. During the meeting, when the old reflex tugged, explain, perform, he saw his rule written on the first line. What outcome matters most by Friday? He asked. The room pivoted. After walking past the humming vending machine, he felt an unfamiliar sensation across his shoulders, not pride exactly, but alignment. He had been who he said he would be. Doubt had nothing to chew on. Right now, cast your next hour. Pick a role that fits the task in front of you. Speak its rule aloud. Create a tiny ritual. Touch the doorframe. Lift your eyes to the far wall for 10 seconds. Place your palm flat on the desk and feel the grain. When the hour arrives, you won't negotiate with a mood, you'll obey a rule. Microdrill, 2 token promises. Each morning, give yourself 2 physical tokens, a coin in your pocket and a small object on your desk, or 2 imaginary marks if you prefer. Each token equals 1 promise you will keep today no matter the weather. Not 5. 2. Promise them small, 1 sentence shipped, 1 boundary spoken, 1 glass of water before caffeine, 1 10-minute walk, 1 sticky note outcome before a meeting. When you deliver, move the token from left pocket to right, or flip the object over, or draw a check on your wristwatch band in pen. The body loves rituals, the basal ganglia encode them fast. 2 promises kept beat 10 declared. Doubt hates visible proof. A domestic vignette to make this tactile. Nina's mornings were a slow emergency, kids, lunches, email, guilt. Spirals began by 9 a.m. 2 token promises steadied the launch. Token 1, before coffee, 2 4-4-6 breaths facing the window. Token 2, text 1 clean line to the contractor by 8:15. She placed 2 smooth pebbles on the windowsill. After the breaths, 1 pebble went into a small dish. After the text, the second followed. The kitchen smelled like toast. A cartoon buzzed faint in the other room. Her chest felt less crowded. The day would still be noisy, but now it had 2 pillars holding up the ceiling. Science bridge, brief and useful. Self-trust is a learned expectation. Prediction systems inside your brain compute whether I will do what I say is likely. Each kept promise creates a prediction error if your old model says you won't, releasing dopamine that updates the model toward you will. Protective design lowers the cost of initiation, keeping the prefrontal cortex online when the amygdala is whispering reasons to delay. Role rule ritual lines up motor, language, and salience networks so you're not arguing with willpower. You're routing traffic along a simpler road. Over weeks, heart rate variability improves as your nervous system stops bracing for the next self-betrayal. Listen for the softest sound in your space. Feel the chair take your weight. Let your jaw unhook by a millimeter. Rest the tongue on the floor of your mouth. Doubt shrinks in bodies that are not clenched. Here's a small scene from an evening where the air smelled like rain on warm pavement. Dev had promised to shut the lid at 7:30. At 7:26, he felt the urge to just fix one thing. Promise, lid down, walk outside. Protect, calendar alert, lamp on a smart switch that clicked off at 7:30. Prove, he wrote lid down at 7:30 on a paper by the door and ticked it with a pen he could feel scratching the fibers. When the lamp clicked, his hand moved before the mental debate started. Outside, the sky was a deep blue punctured by the first stars. He walked to the corner and back, his shoulders let go. Back inside, doubt tried to scold, you left work on the table. He answered with proof, tick on paper, body not on fire. The next morning, his focus arrived earlier than usual. Rest had become part of his output, not a rival. Self-trust doesn't mean you never miss. It means you repair fast. When you break a promise, don't throw the system away. Run a micro-repair, recognize, reduce, repromise. Recognize with a clean sentence, I skipped the 10-minute walk. Reduce the scope for today, 3 minutes to the mailbox and back. Repromise out loud with your next available window. Then prove market. Your anterior cingulate wants open loops closed. The micro-repair closes them without drama. Spirals feed on all or nothing. You're feeding shades of gray. A work hallway, carpet muffling footsteps, air faintly metallic. Kay promised to send a status at noon. He looked up at 12:19 and felt the flush of heat in his cheeks. Old pattern, hide, craft a perfect apology. Micro-repair, recognize, status late, reduce, 2 sentences now. Repromise, full update at 3:30. He typed the 2 sentences and a time. The critic had little to prosecute. The receiver had something to move with. Kay wrote 3:30 in his calendar with a gentle chime, then breathed 446 once. Spiral averted, day preserved. Identity casting shines when life is loud. Put it in relationships. Role, listener for 15 minutes after your partner gets home. Rule, ask 2 questions before 1 suggestion. Ritual, hand on the doorframe as they enter, 446 breath, soften eyes, or put it in health. Role, mover for 12 minutes. Rule, start slow, don't check the mirror. Ritual, shoes by the door pointed out, playlist cued. You don't wait to feel like a listener or a mover. You become one by obeying 1 rule and doing 1 rituals. Feel your forearms, temperature, pressure, any tiny draft. Notice the light on the nearest surface, the matte sheen of a notebook, the glint on a glass. These are not decorations. Present moment anchors keep the threat system from grabbing the microphone when you're changing patterns. Safety grows where sensation is permitted to exist. Doubt loves to quote your past. You're going to steal its sources. Install a proof ledger you actually want to open, not a brag book, a lab notebook. At the end of each day, write 3 lines that start with a verb and end with a fact. Kept token promise 1 breath plus window at 7:10. Asked 1 clean question before offering a fix. Closed the lid at 7:30, walked 2 blocks. Keep it boring on purpose. Your hippocampus stores boring reliably. Your nervous system trusts boring more than fireworks. In 3 weeks, the ledger becomes a quiet thunder you can feel in your bones. When doubt says, you never, you can turn pages and say, I did, repeatedly. A subway car, metal smell and soft sway. Sarah scrolled her proof ledger on the Notes app. No poetry, rows of verbs and times. Her shoulders, always just a touch tense at the end of a day, lowered as if someone had turned a knob. She wasn't high on affirmation, she was steady on evidence. That steadiness changed how she moved through the rest of the evening. A slower fork in the pasta, a warmer voice on a call, a bedtime that arrived without self-negotiation. Science bridge brief. The insula tracks internal state and prediction error. When your ledger shows repeated deliveries, the brain's interoceptive map updates. We finish small. HRV often improves because your body stops bracing for self-betrayal. In behavior terms, it becomes easier to start and to stop. Stopping is where many spirals begin. A good engine has brakes. Tension will still visit. That's why you'll pair identity casting with a stop line, 1 sentence you say when you catch a breach. New role now. You can speak it out loud with a low voice that your midbrain reads as safe. In a meeting that's drifting, whisper, new role now, coach, then run your rule. Late at night with a phone in your hand, new role now, sleeper, Rule: phone sleeps in the kitchen. Ritual: lamp glow, book open. The sentence is a lever that shifts tracks. Taste the air, maybe neutral, maybe faint coffee. Listen for one sound you had ignored for an hour. Place your palm on your chest and feel the rise, the fall. Whisper new role now and name one you'll inhabit after this audio ends. Give it one rule. Pick one ritual. Promise 1 inch. Protect it. Prove it. A story from a creative studio where the air held that sweet solvent tang of markers drying. Theo, who you met before, wanted to turn "I'm flaky" into "I'm steady." He didn't try to force belief. He ran a self-trust engine for 6 weeks. 2 tokens daily, same time windows, same ritual. Roll at 9 a.m., builder ship 1 imperfect panel. Ritual: touch the light table, breathe 446, read the rule. At 4 p.m., editor, cut 5 words per caption. He kept a ledger with timestamps. Week 2, his critic went quiet for an afternoon. Week 4, clients started describing him with a word that once burned: reliable. Week 6, he had to update his own bio because the old language didn't fit. Identity didn't arrive as an epiphany. It arrived as a stack of apparently boring days. You'll meet moments when you cannot keep a promise because the world tilts. A sick child, a crisis, a surprise demand. You will be tempted to let doubt claim everything you've built. Don't. Run the sanctuary adjustment. Reduce the promise to a single breath ritual today and mark it. New role now: caregiver. Rule: prioritize presence. Ritual: hand on the doorframe, 446. Then place your ledger in sight so your nervous system knows the story isn't broken. It's paused with honor. When the tilt passes, run a reignition ritual. Same time tomorrow, same role, words aloud, same first inch. Brains love return points. Give yours 1. A quiet kitchen at night, the smell of dish soap and something sweet cooling. Aria's toddler got sick. The day became a blur of towels and thermometers. Her 8 p.m. writing promise died on the vine. At 9:40, she did the sanctuary adjustment. Palm on the doorframe, breath 446, whispered new role now, sleeper, rule, protect, rest. She ticked a small star in the ledger, protected sleep. It felt absurd and true. The next night, when the house was finally quiet, she reopened the dock, and the cursor didn't feel like a judge. It felt like a friend who had kept the seat warm. Feel the cool at the back of your throat. Let your exhale be a quiet ocean again. Look around and name one object you hadn't noticed: a scuff on a baseboard, a thread on a cuff, a dent in a notebook. Attention to small reality is training for small delivery. Small delivery is the engine of self-trust. There's one more lens that will keep these tools kind: gratitude in shadow. After you keep a promise, name one unglamorous thing that made it possible: the chair that held you, the neighbor who kept noise low, your past self who left the dock open. Gratitude for the shadow crew keeps your success from hardening into self-punishment. You did it, and you didn't do it alone. Systems help. You get to thank them. Your nervous system softens in gratitude. Softened systems are more flexible under stress. A bus ride home, neon leaking into the aisle. Hana looked at her token in her palm, a small brass washer she'd found in a drawer, and whispered, "Thanks, washer, for being here to flip." She laughed at herself and felt the tension in her shoulders ease a degree. She texted her past self in a sense by writing "dock open for tomorrow" on the monitor's sticky note. She was leaving breadcrumbs others might call silly. Her nervous system called them safe. When doubt arrives tomorrow, and it will, you won't fight it with speeches. You'll open your ledger and you'll see proof. You'll cast your role and obey the rule. You'll move a token from one pocket to the other. You'll keep promises so small that a storm can't knock them down. Over time, Your reticular activating system will stop searching for confirmation that you're the person who quits and start noticing how often you return. The mind will still make weather. You will become the climate. As we close, breathe in for 4, hold for 2, out for 6. Feel the chair take more of your weight. Hear the soundscape, you're part of distant traffic, a heater's sigh, nighttime noises, morning clatter. Whisper the identity line that has become the spine of this book. You are the awareness, not the emotion. Extend it here, you are the awareness, not the doubt. Doubt can visit, you keep the keys. Pick your role for the next hour, state its rule, do its ritual. Make one promise the size of a coin, protect it. Prove it, stack a boring day on another boring day until boredom turns into a road. On that road, spirals don't vanish. They get tired of chasing you. There's a day when you realize the work isn't about fixing you, it's about fitting your tools into the life you already have. Spirals will still knock. Deadlines will still compress. People you love will still arrive with needs you didn't plan for. The difference after this journey is not that storms end, it's that you keep your hands on the wheel. In this closing chapter, we're going to weld everything together so you don't have to remember a dozen frameworks in the exact right order. You'll learn 2 final integrators that make the rest automatic. The first is the Anti-Spiral Playbook, a pocket-sized sequence that stitches your best moves into one fluid minute. The second is the Clarity Cadence, a weekly rhythm that keeps your nervous system stocked with safety, direction, and proof. You'll pair them with a micro-drill called the one-page operating system, so your brain has a home base when life gets loud. Begin inside your body. Feel the chair receive your weight, the way fabric grazes your forearms, the slight cool at the tip of your nose as air goes in, and the warmer slip as it leaves. Somewhere there's a residual tremor of doubt or urgency, like a fluorescent light buzzing at the edge of hearing. Name the weather, low hum in the chest, shoulders a shade high, mind asking if you'll remember any of this when it counts. Breathe 4-4-6 once, and as you exhale, imagine placing all your tools on a table. SSI 90-second rule, window-widen, thought labeling, cognitive triage, fact-fiction, 2-minute map, ASR 3 seats, boundary beacon, yes, no ladder, narrative neutralizer, compassionate constraint, T3 somatic compass, recon window, activation cascade, friction sculpting, aftershock protocol. If then bridge, North Star Audit, doorway matrix, self-trust engine, identity casting. You are not required to juggle them. You are going to choose routes. The Anti-Spiral Playbook is one route. 5 beats, 1 minute, muscle memory simple, whether body, label, hinge, inch. Whether call what's happening like a forecast, tight chest, mind looping worst case. Body 1-4-4-6 breath and 1 contact point, feet on floor or palm on desk, feel it. Label, I notice I'm having the thought that, or the 3-channel sentence. Body, story, signal. Hinge, 1 window-widen question, what is my smallest wide move? Or 1 boundary sentence, what outcome by when? Inch, act inside 60 seconds, open the dock, send the clean question, stand and drink water, set a 2-minute timer. The playbook works because it threads safety, breath, perspective, label, agency, hinge, and momentum, inch, in the order your biology understands. You can run it in a meeting, on a sidewalk, in a kitchen with a pot boiling over. You do not argue with the storm, you drive. Ground this with a scene. You're walking into a review. The conference room air smells like dry erase and recycled HVAC, a little metallic. A VP who once scowled sits at the far end. Your throat tightens, whether nerves heat in cheeks. Body 1 quiet 4-4-6, palm flat on chair back, texture registers. Label, I notice I'm having the thought that I'll freeze. Hinge, window widen, what's my smallest wide move? Answer, lead with outcome sentence. Inch, you say, in 10 minutes we'll decide between A and B and pick one next step. the room aligns. Later you'll forget the line you almost tripped on. You'll remember the hinge that turned panic into choice. As you practice, build sensory anchors every 800 characters of your day. Feel the warmth of a mug in your hand. Hear a car door thunk, a kettle click, a hallway laugh. These aren't decorations, they're safety votes cast by the body. Your vagus nerve listens. When it gets proof of the present, it releases its grip on your throat. When your throat softens, your prefrontal cortex re-enters with better questions. The Clarity Cadence keeps the week from unraveling. It has 4 appointments with yourself: Reset Sunday, Narrow Monday, Protect Wednesday, Reflect Friday. Reset Sunday, 15 minutes. Run North Star Audit in verbs, pick 1 boundary beacon sentence for the week, and write 2 if, then bridges for likely wobble points. You do it with warm light and a beverage your nervous system trusts. Narrow Monday, 10 minutes. Cognitive triage for the week's big rock, 2-minute map to make visible progress before inbox. Protect Wednesday, 7 minutes. Midweek beacon check, what outcome by when, 1 yes, no ladder in the next conversation. Reflect Friday, 12 minutes. Aftershock Protocol on 1 miss and 1 win, then proof ledger entries for 3 kept promises. You won't always hit the durations. The point is rhythm. Brains love rhythm. Rhythm becomes ritual. Ritual becomes identity. Maya used Clarity Cadence to change how weeks felt. Sunday night, the apartment smelled like detergent and new basil. She wrote, "This week I protect 9/11 for the draft because it changes Q3. She added if Slack pops, then finish the sentence before looking. Monday narrow, now open doc, right outcome, next 2 slides, not yet animations. She set a 2-minute timer and wrote the first ugly paragraph. Wednesday protect, she asked a teammate, what outcome by when, and offered a clean alternative when scope creep appeared. Friday reflect, acknowledge, rushed slide 3, adjust, 1 index card per slide, advance, template now. Win acknowledge, held boundary choose. Proof ledger 3 lines times, the weeks didn't stop being busy. They stopped feeling like a blur she had to survive. Your microdrill is the 1-page operating system, OPOS. It's a single sheet you keep visible where work happens. Top left, your 3 value verbs from the North Star Audit. Top right, your boundary beacon and entry-exit sentences. Middle, Anti-Spiral Playbook, weather, body, label, hinge, inch in 5 short lines. Bottom left, your identity casting for the day, role, rule, ritual. Bottom right, today's 2 token promises and their proof marks. In the margin, write your if, then bridges in pencil so you can swap as needed. When your mind scrambles, you look down and obey the page. The page becomes the grown-up when your inner room is full of toddlers. A domestic vignette to bring OPOS to life. It's 7:42 a.m., light slanting through blinds, making the wall a barcode. You smell toast and coffee. A message arrives, we need to talk. Old you spirals, new you glances at the OPOS. Boundary beacon glows, this week I protect calm starts, phones away until first sentence exists. Anti-Spiral Playbook, whether named, body, breath, label, hinge, ask for time, do 1 inch. You text, yes, what time works. You write 1 sentence toward the doc because token promise 1 says 1 line before inbox. The text comes back with 4 p.m. You didn't solve life. You walked it. Weave in your somatic compass when decisions appear. Open, close, lean, leave, check the body's direction, then run the doorway matrix to size the door. 2-way low, act, 1-way high, sleep, gather 2 facts, then choose with ceremony. If you can't tell, run the 48-hour tilt and let your nervous system vote. Pair it with value to verb. Do 1 behavior that would be true in the chosen world. Because endings call up beginnings, return once more to the 90-second weather rule. When a wave hits, give it its time. Set an 8-cycle breath container. Count out loud if you can. At cycle 5, run the hinge question. At cycle 8, take the inch. Spirals need fuel to live. Silence and small actions starve them politely. A field story from a hospital corridor that smelled like antiseptic and brewed coffee. You're waiting for news you can't speed. Anxiety crawls your skin. You run the Anti-Spiral Playbook in micro. Weather, fear, tight throat. Body, hand on the cool rail, feel metal. Label, I notice I'm having the thought that I should control this. Hinge, what is my smallest wide move? Inch, text the person who's home alone and say you'll update them. Then drink water. You do not eradicate fear. You shepherd it. Hours later, when the elevator dings and news arrives, your body remembers how you didn't abandon yourself in the hallway. That memory is the quiet power you carry into ordinary Tuesdays. Let's integrate the story lens too. When the critic narrates, you neutralize. I'm having the thought that this time hurt. Then you run compassionate constraint, value, normalize, narrow, nourish, and design a behavior you can do in a minute. You place that behavior under identity casting's rule for your current role. You count proof. Self-respect accrues. Feel the room again, the temperature on your forearms, the weight in your hips, the sound closest, the sound farthest. Your reticular activating system is learning your new signature. You start with the body, you label the mind, you ask a wise question, you move 1 inch. Repeat enough times, and your nervous system will deliver this sequence before your cortex writes a paragraph about doom. There's a myth that mastery means never wobbling. You've learned the opposite. Mastery is wobbling and returning. Use the sanctuary room when words crowd your mouth. 1 breath in that quiet space, wood under your palm, light on the wall, and then you choose from a page, not a panic. A last story to put a bow on practice. Late night. Rain traces the window. You're in a small room with a desk that knows your elbows. A project is due. Your brain offers the old bargains, overnight heroics, future shame. You look at your OPOS. Role, builder, ship 1 imperfect unit. Ritual, tap the desk twice. Anti-Spiral Playbook, whether named, body anchored, label spoken, hinge chosen, which hinge moves others. Inch, you write the summary and send it to 1 person with 1 question. Does this match your aim? You close the lid at the hour you promised and walk to a window that smells like wet cement. Doubt whispers, it won't be enough. You whisper back, not with argument but with proof. Token 1 moved, token 2 moved. Ledger written, you go to bed. In the morning, clarity is already on your side because you treated sleep like a teammate. This is not a movie. This is the texture of a life that works. The identity turn 1 last time because it's the rope you'll reach for when wind rises. You are the awareness, not the emotion. You are the awareness, not the narrator. You are the awareness, not the inertia. You are the awareness, not the aftershock. Add today's clause. You are the awareness, not the spiral. Spirals are weather. You are the sky. The sky does not apologize for clouds. It hosts them and remains. Before we close the book, install your first full day with the Clarity Cadence. Right now, whisper your beacon for the next 7 days. Write your 3 value verbs. Draw the 5 lines of the Anti-Spiral Playbook on a scrap. Pick 1 role, 1 rule, 1 ritual for the next hour. Choose 2 token promises the size of coins. If you can, put your palm on your chest and feel the warmth under your hand. Let the breath move you like a tide lifting a small boat. You don't need to believe. You need to begin. The rest follows. As we end, listen for the softest sound in your space. Name 1 small object in sight you ignored, the curl of a page, a nick on the desk, a hairline scratch on a mug. That's where change lives, in details, in inches, in the ordinary. You will have loud days and quiet ones. On both kinds, you will reach for the same moves, and they will be enough. The weather will change. The sky will hold.